checks. Do you mind? Check 1, check 2, check 3. Fantastic. Ow, mic check for me.
Mic check. Wallace, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mic check. 1, 2, 3.
Like a dream, Kasey.
Mic check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
What was the word I want to use here? Like an oasis in the desert. Gabe.
Oh, yes.
Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7,
Yeah,
8,
you
9.
sound fine. Perfect. The pick is in, folks. Check 1, check 2. All right, you hear it. Welcome in, everyone, to a very, very special Carolina Sports Live Plus, a first, if you will, out of the Blue Room. We are covering all things NFL Draft. We have an incredible crew here tonight. I am producer Austin McCollum. We have Carolina Sports' own Gabe McDonald, Kasey Funderburg, and you can't do a great CSL without Al Wallace. Guys, welcome in to what is going to be a very exciting few hours here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the NFL Draft, obviously one of the, highly anticipated days on the NFL calendar each and every year. We see it now since it's been on tour. Fans come out in droves, incredible turnout up there in Pittsburgh. And an exciting time, especially when you think about just the Carolina Panthers coming off their playoff appearance and now being in the middle of the draft, different territory than previous years, but still a lot of talent around that 19th spot. And they're looking to add an impact player and somebody that can help them continue to build as they look to be a contender in the coming years, guys.
Al, I want to know what you just from a player being on a team when it's draft night, okay, we're about to add fresh blood to the team and all of these things. How exciting is it for a guy who's already on the team knowing we're about to add to this organization and hopefully be better because of it?
Yeah, there's two sides of it, Kasey. So first of all, those guys that are secure in their positions that have been previous draft picks probably feel pretty good. You have an opportunity to be better, a chance to make the playoffs and to continue the run we saw with the Panthers in 2025. But people like myself, undrafted, bottom of that roster, I'm nervous. They're going to draft the defensive end, and I'm going to be fighting for my roster life again. So it was always filled with anxiety, but certainly anxiety because it's such a brotherhood. It is just so close-knit in those locker rooms. We knew that we were one or two players away from getting to our goal, and this is what the Panthers, that locker room, those guys on that roster are thinking about tonight.
Let's just go back in the past for a little bit, guys. Just looking at the season that they were able to put together. Obviously, you go out, you get Tedero McMillan last year in the first round. That leads to, an NFC South crown, a playoff appearance, and really just bringing something back to the city and to, the Carolinas in general that we really haven't seen in quite some time. Just when you think about how they've set themselves up to get to this point, how would y'all assess just where they're at now and kind of what the front office is thinking heading into the night?
Yeah, I think it's unfamiliar territory. Yeah. We talked about it kind of a little bit here pre-show. 19th overall pick. It's been a while since the Panthers have earned that right to pick in the middle or the bottom of the first round. And now they're in a luxury position, especially the moves that Dave Canales and Dan Morgan put together leading up until tonight's draft, that they're almost in a position to take the best available player. And that is a dream phrase for a lot of the general managers. Can I just look at this draft board? Can we take the guy that's rated the highest to improve our roster? Unfamiliar territory. I think it's a good night, but certainly all of us are going to be waiting to see how 1 through 18 play out. Yeah.
I'm really interested to see who they pick up and what they do with them, because I don't think, maybe Al, you thought differently, but I don't think a lot of us saw Tedero McMillan. That wasn't the first name that came into our minds last year.
We were being with you last year.
We're thinking defense, which is also what we're thinking probably again this year, but they surprised us going offense, getting T-Mac, and we saw what he did in college. We're like, all right, like he was a solid player, just still didn't seem to be the need that the Panthers needed. But then this season, imagine had they not picked T-Mac and had we not had the season that the Panthers did, I think was so impressive. That's what's so cool about the draft, right? You never know what these guys are going to do until they actually get there. So I think that was just cool to see what the Panthers were able to do with their pick. And I think it gave Dan Morgan like maybe a little chip on his shoulder or something, like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Like, you guys don't need to doubt me. And we kind of questioned it, And so I think that's what's been really cool about this past season for the Panthers, and what could be cool this year once we see who they pick and what they're able to do with him.
Yeah, and Al, you went to war with Dan for many years, a guy that obviously, was 11th overall pick back in 2001. Just have you seen his mindset evolve, just going from a former player, how he was on the field, to now, being somewhat a little bit more reserved, but still cerebral in his approach to be able to build this team to what it was when you guys were on the field?
Yeah, it's funny because you see the same look, Gabe, in his eyes. He's a dog, just like he described.
And that's what he wants in the franchise.
Conference. He just talked about it. Hey, man, I'm looking for this type of player. And when he says that, he understands exactly what that looks like, what it means, who he wants to build, how he wants to build this roster. So I think you guys see me every week have a little chat with Dan, and a little passing, and he's just quiet, but he still has that determination and that plan in his eyes. I did not get it. I thought it was Walker, the edge rusher out of Georgia, that the Panthers desperately needed at that position. It had been so long since Brian Burns' departure that they had a guy that they could trust to go out and maybe get double-digit sacks. But they go out, they get Teteroa McMillan, and what a season that he put together. Rookie of the year, just fantastic football player. Great, incredible young man. Yeah. And I think that is exactly what exemplifies what it means to be a Carolina Panther. That kid got it. And Dan Morgan and that great staff, that scouting department, they knew what we didn't, and it's a testament to the hard work they put in.
Well, and thank goodness, too, because Xavier Legette didn't have the season everyone thought he was going to have, right? He was hurt the previous year. They're like, oh, he's going to come back. Didn't have a great season. Jalen Coker, he gets hurt. We don't have him. Say we don't have T-Mac. Who the heck are you throwing the ball to? So the fact that they were able to see what we didn't see, go and get a guy, and that guy pay off the way that he did, it just shows you they know what they're doing. They're going out here, they're serious, they mean business about everything that they're saying. And like y'all were saying, you see that dog in him when Dan Morgan talks.
So much so, guys, they let Adam Thielen go before the season started.
Sure. And he was that veteran guy,
the most consistent weapon on that offense other than Chuba Hubbard. Yeah. So to let him go told you, it just pointed to what we were going to see out of T-Mac. He was incredible.
There was a plan.
Last 2 years, selected a wide receiver in the first round. The only team in the modern draft era to go 3 in a row, the Detroit Lions, and then after the 3 in a row, they go and get Calvin Johnson in 2007. Do you think they go that route this time around? Is that truly one of the biggest needs for this team going into tonight?
I think you could absolutely continue to feed this offense and Bryce Young and that development and the evolution that we saw, right? A lot of it came with the rushing attack of with Rico Dowdle and what he did in the middle of that season while Chuba Hubbard was on the mend. But if you can bring in another dynamic playmaker, and there are going to be a few, I believe they're at 19. Omar Cooper Jr. may still be there.
Sure.
Casey Concepcion is another incredibly talented slot wide receiver that can be added to that core that we're talking about.
And from right here in Charlotte.
Just make that, make that core over the top. So it's not off the table. There are other needs, but again, luxury position, I believe, at 19.
Yeah, I do. Let's go ahead and go to Pittsburgh real quick. We do want to bring up the draft has started, obviously. Yes. Raiders, they're on the clock right now. They got less than 6 minutes, and they are expected to pick Fernando Mendoza. I will be shocked if they don't.
People are going to lose a lot of money. they wouldn't win any money to begin with if you're betting on him to be the first overall pick. But just when you look at Al, what he was able to do last year, kind of just came out of nowhere. I mean, nobody expected Indiana to win anything in football. We think about them as a basketball school.
Yeah.
Kirk Cincinnati comes in these last 2 years, an incredible turnaround. They're probably going to make a movie about it one day. But just when you look at the Raiders, new head coach, and I believe Clint Kubiak coming from Seattle, got Ashton Genty last year. That offensive line, though, still kind of spotty. How do you see his game translating at the next level, marrying, a first-year head coach and a rookie quarterback here in year one?
Well, let's talk about his toughness first behind that offensive line or lack thereof. I think you need someone with the mentality of Fernando Mendoza and his ability to scrape himself off the ground, even at times with that great team in Indiana. I think that toughness is going to serve him well. But the most important attribute that he's going to bring to this Raiders team is that it's consistency, and he does not make mistakes. He's just not going to turn it over, right? And he's has that ability, like we see in our own Bryce Young, that when he does, he forgets about it. He's going to line up. He's going to get back in the huddle, and his teammates, the guys around him, are going to absolutely believe that he's going to be able to get it done. So I like that for this team. They're not quite ready. It's a work in progress, but they have a guy that's not going to cause it to crumble. He's not going to be the piece that makes it fall apart this year. He's going to stabilize them because he's not going to come in and make mistakes in the offense that's trying to develop.
Yeah, and he's one of the only guys, at least that are projected to go in the first round, who actually did decide to stay home. Which I thought was an interesting choice, but also I kind of respect him for it. He decided to stay home. His mom, you've been following his story, has MS, and so it was just going to be a lot for them to travel. So he's actually in Miami right now watching the draft with his family. He said it was important to be with all the people that supported him and got him to where he needed to be today. And he was like, I've got to get on a flight the next day anyway, so why would I fly to New York, to fly home, to fly somewhere else? And I think that just speaks a lot to his character, right? Like part of you is like, no, you got to be there and walk across the stage. But then it's like, is that the big moment in your life, or is just like being with your parents who have done every single thing for you? Yeah. Is that the most important thing? Like you're going to have all these big, hopefully
you'll
for
have
him,
all the photo
he'll have
ops
these
and
big
everything
moments.
afterwards. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things too, we've even talked about it, obviously being a later round pick, but even we've seen a lot of guys, over the last several years, top guys. You look at, Trevor Lawrence, you look at, Baker Mayfield, a lot of other, top overall picks. They haven't been there either. And I think it's one of those things where you want to be, like you said, you want to be around the people that you love the most, that have helped you get to that journey. And it's just one of those things when you think about, just all the family, all the friends, your former high school, college teammates that are going to be able to come out. I think, this is, for him, obviously before, eventually getting married, having kids, this is probably the biggest moment of his life up to this point. So I think just having that family atmosphere, it certainly makes a big difference because this is something that he'll never forget for the rest of his life either.
Nope. And the pick is in. So
wait.
There we go.
There we go. You're going to hear that a lot tonight, folks.
Yes. The pick is officially in.
Is
so we'll wait and see. I think Roger Goodell should be coming up to the stage shortly.
Yeah.
Hopefully we see Ty Simpson, probably the second quarterback if you're watching the draft as well. Ty Simpson probably going to go later in the first round. Eventually we'll see if he does from Alabama. But Fernando Mendoza likely about to hear his name called officially as the top overall pick. I think that's the guy that, we've seen him kind of grow over the last several years and really just this year too. I think you look at his business-like approach, a guy that, you think when you hear him talk, you think of a guy that's going to be working on Wall Street one day and possibly not a quarterback too. But I think just a guy that's wise beyond his years and certainly, going to be a difference maker. And Roger Goodell heading to the stage right now to announce the first pick of the night here in the 2026 NFL draft. And certainly an exciting time up there in Pittsburgh.
First QB pick since Joe Burrow in 2020. So okay, there we go. It's been announced. Hugging mom. So yeah, that's also a big deal. It's been 6 years since they've drafted a QB number one overall. So for him to kind of break that streak was also really good to see, and seeing him around his family as well.
So it is official.
Incredible moment. Fernando Mendoza.
There it is. Your number one pick,
Vegas Raider, the number one overall pick. Now the fourth quarterback, I believe, now to go from Heisman, national title, now be the number one overall pick. The first one to do it, a guy that came here to Carolina, Cam Newton, back in 2011.
That's right.
You also had not Kyler Murray, but also Joe Burrow did as well. So definitely an incredible fraternity, especially when you think about a guy by the name of Tom Brady being in the front office out there in Vegas as well. So he probably has a tight relationship with him and went out and got his guy. And we'll just see what the future holds out there in Vegas. I think, like we've talked about, Al, before the show, building out that offensive line to be able to, help those skill players. You got Brock Bowers. We know he's probably going to get a ton of targets because we know young quarterbacks love tight ends, and he's proven to be one of the best in the game as well. If you're watching for fantasy info, that's my cue for you to draft Brock Bowers if you're able to in the first round. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see just, what the future holds. And now we move to the New York Jets, who are now on the clock with
So actually, I'll pop up the graphic we were talking about earlier. Yeah. This is the order for tonight. If you're a little unfamiliar, again, Raiders just locked in Mendoza. The Jets are up second, followed by the Cardinals, Titans, Giants. Do we see potential trade action in these first 10 or so?
I think we could. I could see a team like the Cardinals potentially wanting to trade back probably and add some more capital. I think the Jets are still kind of up in the air. We've talked a lot about it, Bailey from Texas Tech, even, Arvell Reese as well, a guy coming out of Ohio State. We know Ohio State always producing a lot of talent when you think about Sonny Styles and everybody that's going to be coming out from their camp. But I think we could see a little bit of movement here, but maybe not a whole lot. I think the main thing is going to be more picks involved. I don't know if we see any big name players move tonight, which, we've seen in recent years, but that might not be the move.
It's funny you mentioned losing money, and, we're not going to condone any sports betting here unless you really want to and you're 18 of age. But I was looking at Kalshi and Poly Market for both of them. They didn't even have up one for the number one pick. I think that was pretty much a lock.
It was solidified.
Number 2 overall pick, Kalshi, Arvell Reese. Poly Market, Arvell Reese, overwhelmingly over David Bailey and Jeremiah Love.
Yeah, that one. for me, being an edge rusher, being a guy who's played that position, I'm going to go back to 2022, I believe it was, with Trayvon Walker
going
and
first
Aiden
overall
Hutchinson.
Hutchinson.
Find me a guy who's already hunted and brought back the kill versus a guy that has the potential to go out. And I think when you look at David Bailey, it is proven he gets quarterbacks on the ground. So if I'm making this choice right now, it was the Trayvon Walker who had the potential and Aiden Hutchinson who dominated at Michigan. Go look at their statistics side by side over the last 3 years. It's not even close. Even though Walker, the light has come on, I'm going to look at David Bailey because I have the proof. It's already in the pudding. Pudding, that guy has gotten quarterbacks on the ground versus a tweener. Is he a stand-up? You kind of drafted him because you would believe that he's Micah Parsons-esque. And I'm not interested at the second overall pick in drafting potential.
That'd be a very high investment. You want, like you said, production over potential, and there's only a few guys that have the talent of a Micah Parsons that have been in the league. You look at a guy like Myles Garrett, obviously, and some others, but I think you want to have that production as well, and somebody that is able to get the quarterback on the ground. The pressures, the hurries, it's nice, it's cute in the PFF grades and all that stuff, but you want to get the quarterback on the ground. How are you impacting the game? How are you impacting winning? Because, a wise man once told me back in the day, the three most important positions, the quarterback, somebody to protect him, and somebody to go get him. Yeah, that's what you need.
Right.
Well, the Jets pick is in, so we're going to know here. There we go.
You're going to get it 19 times tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a nice, calming little tone.
It is.
We don't have the
like
chimes.
the air horns and everything.
Don't tempt me because I do have that sound effect queued up.
That might be the move for the Panthers pick when we make a splash.
When we get
if they even trade up.
So you're talking about protecting the QB. Is that something the Panthers might be looking at this year?
It very well could be. I mean, because still we don't have a lot of just clarity on the timeline of Ike Ekwonu. His patella tendon injury there in the wild card game. Is he going to be ready for training camp? Is he going to be ready for even week 1 of the season? That still remains to be seen. They did go out and get Rasheed Walker, who many considered to be one of the top tackles on the open market.
For sure.
But he even has some injury issues in the past as well. So I think, you bring him in on the 1-year deal. Taylor Moton is only getting older there on the right side. So I think you could potentially, it's more so for drafting for the future because obviously T-Mo just got his extension ahead of last season. Very likely his last contract as a pro, and then he'll be moving on and, just beginning the next chapter of his life. So I think, that's probably something that they might want to address. If not tonight, definitely on day 2.
Yeah, absolutely. It was. I wasn't surprised to see guys like Corbett and Cade kind of move on. Cade was needing to get some sort of big signing check. Okay, it looks like they went. The Jets picked David Bailey. So yes,
there it is, folks.
David Bailey.
Man,
Makes
a lot
sense.
of people just
production.
lost some money.
Show me the guy that is a proven pass rusher, and the numbers are there.
Absolutely.
The athleticism for Arvell Reese are incredible. The potential is through the roof. But this guy, throughout his career there, we've seen him do the job that he just got drafted 2nd overall for. That, to me, just felt like a no-brainer.
And that's really what they need, too, when you think about the Jets.
They need to fill that today.
And also, pass rush helps the secondary. They didn't have a single interception last season.
So I don't even know how that's possible.
So you want to have
not a tip ball.
And you got to think about an Aaron Glenn coach team. We've saw what he's been able to do as a defensive coordinator. Goes there to try and turn things around. Not a single interception in 17 games now. I think that's just mind-boggling. And now you have a guy that can impact, the secondary. If they have, not as much time to cover, they possibly can be able to make a lot of plays now. Now, you did give up Sauce Gardner to get an extra first-round pick, so that'll be interesting to see how they use that down the line. But, yeah, this is certainly a pick that's going to help them, help the defense as a whole, because if you're able to create a lot of pressure and get the quarterback on the ground, it can lead to those game-changing turnovers like we've seen.
2 young guys now with Will McDonald, the 4th, who was the only other player on that roster to have more than 4 sacks for the New York Jets a year ago. So to be able to pair him with a young guy, David Bailey, show him the ropes. I think now you have something, that AG can work with. You'll see him go out there and be more, I think, definitive on how he wants that defense to look. And this should be a huge improvement for a team that desperately they need offense, and I think they'll address that with that next pick here in the first round. But a defensive guy to pair with Will McDonald, 2 young edge rushers, just adds to that depth.
Yeah, he also had a really clean suit on tonight.
He
just
did.
want to mention.
A very, solid look too. Yeah, the solid tux. I mean, we've seen.
Oh, I know, it had a little design in it.
It did.
You looked closely. Yeah,
and I think now we're seeing, a little bit of a return to the classic look with the draft fits? Because they got a little flashy there for a little bit, but now I think, we're not seeing the 03 draft suits, the LeBrons, the 3X pants.
The suits I wore in 03. Oh, my God. The suits, 4 buttons.
You could have cuffed them up down
the
there.
4 button, you got all 3 buttons buttoned up here, and then just leave one up top. So I think it's he definitely had a nice fit.
Well, now with like NIL money too, these guys are hiring stylists.
That is true.
They are going out. They are getting professionals.
So okay, I'm glad you bring that up because that's a story one of our reporters is working on here for tonight for Queen City News at 10 about. Do you feel like this, the NIL, the introduction, the growth of NIL has really prepared some of these guys for this life-changing amount of money that they're going to be coming into? I mean, some of them, this is it used to be before NIL. This was like, I mean, you get those paychecks, several $1 million, and now some are kind of coming in with a little bit of a, an egg.
I think it's one of those things where, you have a lot of programs that have, just good programs in place to be able to get guys, the financial literacy to get them ready for this moment too, because, you're already prepared because you give a 21, 22-year-old kid this kind of money. They've already had experience to it at 18, 19, 20 years old, when they get NIL deals before even stepping on campus. And also, I think now you have some guys maybe not coming out as early too. You have the NIL money coming in, and you have the protection of being a college athlete, and you're not on your own just yet. So I think that's another thing too that we're even seeing in the NBA. You're seeing a lot of guys that maybe don't want to come out as early. It's like, okay, I'm getting paid and I'm in college. I'm kind of protected being on campus. Let me wait a little bit. Let me wait to grow up and not be in a rush. But I think it's good that a lot of these guys do have that in place. That way, this isn't such a shocking thing to them.
What you don't see, guys, at the draft is the tiers because those guys already got money.
Yeah,
the tiers came because they're saying, Mama, we made it.
Yeah.
We got some money now, but they've gotten that already in college. So it's just about where am I going to go? What's the next chapter of my life? What city do I set roots in and really grow up and become a young man in the NFL? So, long gone are the days where you see some of the emotions that just pour out all over the stage because they realize that they've really just walked to the commissioner and got handed a lottery ticket for
Do you think that's going to like change the game, like change anything at all, or it's just like it's not going to make it any less special? But the fact that we're not going to have these big moments like that, like
I don't think it takes anything away from it because I think these moments are moments that realization of all the hard work, the Pop Warner, the bumps and bruises. For some of these guys, they're journeymen. Just go and look at this draft and find out how many guys are getting drafted from a school. It's a lot. So just to be able to be in one place and learn and develop your skills as an NFL player is the big deal tonight.
Yeah.
We got the Cardinals pick is in at number 3 overall.
Here we go.
We're going to take
see what direction they go. Another team with a first-year head coach as well. So we'll see just kind of what direction they go for the future.
If you're picking at the top, you probably had a new coach and a lot of new players coming.
Jeremiah Love, he was the big one that was talked a lot about when it came to the Cards. And then we talked about this actually off camera, but when he is drafted in the top 5, the last running back to get drafted in the top 5 was Saquon Barkley back in 2018. We've seen how good he's been in the NFL and what he's been able to do. So this will be a pretty big deal, too, that the fact that a running back is going to go this high.
Absolutely. I mean, because you've even had some years where you don't even have a running back first round. It's become a position that sometimes just doesn't get a lot of the love or a lot of the respect as it once did because the game has evolved into more of a passing game. But you still need a solid guy that can run between the tackles, get you 3, 4, even 5 yards a pop and be able to move the ball and control the clock when it's needed, especially late in games. So if they go Love here, that would certainly be a good pickup for them to kind of build into the future with a new regime out there in Arizona.
It's just weird to see, if it is Love, to see a running back go that high. A few years ago, those guys were bouncing around like you talked about because the position was completely devalued. And now you look at, some of the greats in the NFL like Saquon Barkley, who was the last one in the top 5. It's certainly a resurgence, rebirth of the running back position.
All right, and there we have it. Jeremiah Love.
Jeremiah Love.
I don't even have to change the video. This is fantastic.
Overall.
I know.
How about that?
Wow.
Man. All right.
It's good to see the running back spot have a lot more love now, for lack of better terms.
There we go.
But look at the if you're watching the draft, you got some ice too.
Wait, let's see. Hold on.
It's definitely it's definitely a special moment, just seeing the hard work pay off. A guy coming from a great program in Notre Dame and put together some really good years there. So I think just as Arizona continues to build for the future, could be a cornerstone piece for him. And I think a guy that a lot of people were very excited to see at the next level, just, how his game is able to translate at the NFL level too.
You guys talked about the ability to get it between the tackles or hitting the edge, but this guy is also a great pass catcher. And when you look at the top 5 running backs in the NFL, it is about position versatility. Those guys are more than capable of also being the leading receiver on any given Sunday in the NFL. And I think Jeremiah Love checks that box as well, that you can go into the game as with the Arizona Cardinals, and he can do both. He can lead you in rushing and also receiving yards because of his ability to catch the ball and be just great in space, and that's how you become the 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft.
Another really good weapon, too.
They just showed the graphic with the different running backs, and you mentioned a couple of them, Gabe, but also someone who was here at Carolina, Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw what he was able to do last season, but then what he
almost
was able
went
to do
band for
here,
band again. Yeah.
I know, and just the yards after catch and everything he was able to do. I mean, it just shows you how explosive and how precious these guys are to these offenses. I mean, they're starting to really be relied on heavily. I mean, look at the Panthers and how much they relied on Rico and Chuba this past season. So, yeah.
It's one of those things. I mean, you want to be able to, just whenever, you're playing in the elements or you're playing a team that has, a solid secondary, you want to be able to turn to the run game. Or when you get into the 4-minute drill and you don't want to give the ball back late in the game, you want to be able to go out and be able to get enough first downs to be able to ice it, because you don't want to be in a situation where you have your defense in a 2-minute drill. So I think, having, a solid running game is still something that's important in today's game. And just, I think for running backs now, in college that are coming up, seeing a guy go this high again, because, you look at mid-2000s, early 2010s, the running back was still a premium position when you saw a lot of guys come off the board early, and then it kind of fell by the wayside a bit. So I think now, knowing that you have a guy that can be a dog and go this high in the draft, it's definitely a good sign for those young running backs coming up. So definitely a exciting night for his family and all the Notre Dame family as well. They always got a lot of talent coming out of that program, especially led by Marcus Freeman up there.
Oh, yeah. Marcus Freeman, he was at a game I covered one high school football
Recruits
game.
the area very well. Yeah, comes down to Myers Park.
Where was I at Myers Park?
I believe so. Yeah.
Friday night, and I remember just I'm filming this guy, and the player I'm filming is who he came to watch, but he just walks into the frame of my camera, and I was like, oh, there's Coach Freeman.
Familiar face.
No,
you never know. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, Charlotte has a lot of talent. I mean, you're going to see, and we have seen, tons of college coaches come down here, and a lot of products, from the area that are likely going to get their name called over the next few days. It really starts and ends with a guy like Kasey Concepcion. Went to Chambers High School, then ended up prepping at NC, or went to Chambers. Started his college career at NC State, then ends up at A&M. Truly a guy that we've talked about, possibly linked to the Carolina Panthers. We talk about a guy that can be a dynamic returner, a good yard after catch guy, kind of be that wide receiver 3 there in the slot, because we know, and it's pretty much been solidified, T-Mac, Jalen Coker, they're your 1 and 2. Everything else after that is kind of up for grabs at this moment. Even got a guy like John Mechie coming in. We know has a great relationship with Bryce Young. So I think there's going to be that'll be a fun battle to watch, to see who rises, to be one of the 5 or 6 guys that they carry on the roster when we get to that point, once we see these guys back together again.
Yeah, I love this time of year, guys, just coming back in, getting into the offseason program. This is where teams are built. I got here in 2002, and it was John Fox's first year, and training camp was tough. It was physical, but the biggest transition was from March of 2003 to the start of that season, where we made a Super Bowl run all the way to Houston. And it's because of the time you spend with guys training, developing, learning the program. You just beat the life out of each other that first year for a new coach, trying to establish who the hell you are. But after that, you kind of get your stride, and we certainly did. And that band of brothers, that group of misfits came together. And I think the Panthers are in that position right now. I think they got a glimpse of who they could be. And again, we got 1 or 2 pieces. We added Jake Delhomme that same offseason, and we added Stephen Davis. Think about the impact those 2 guys had on that 2003 team that took us all the way to the Super Bowl. I think Dan Morgan and Dave Canales are really close this offseason.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's all about, just being in alignment, and they've talked about it a lot, just making sure that they have that conviction on guys, like knowing, like, we're making this pick. And we've even seen, articles come out after last year, like, Grant Tillis even said that Dan Morgan was pretty much in on T-Mac in September of the previous year, when he was starting his college season, and he had eyes on him, and he went out and they made that pick, and it obviously paid off. So I think they're hoping to have the same fate again as we move through the draft. The Titans, their pick is in number 4 overall, so we'll see what direction they go. Obviously, had the first overall pick last year, took Cam Ward, and now we'll see as they look to continue to build out there in Nashville. Kasey's neck of the woods.
Yeah, they need a little offensive firepower over there. They don't have much going on. And the what are they called? The Music City. It was a tough
New
watch.
stadium coming in the coming
New
years
stadium.
as well.
Now they, it's been said that they're going to have a Super Bowl there in 2030, which that was the whole point of building the new stadium.
Because they always award teams once you get somewhere new, they want to give you a Super Bowl.
All right, here's one of our first Ohio State guys coming off the board here, Carnell Tate, wide receiver.
I'm shocked.
Yeah,
I don't have any of that video lined up.
I think I'm shocked that it's Carnell Tate.
They wanted to go get
I thought it was
He's got
going
the crop
defense.
suit.
I thought they want to go defense as well.
Yeah, you're thinking defense here for a
that's right.
defensive-minded head coach, but Carnell Tate just a smooth. He reminds me of the guy we just talked about, T-Mac.
Yeah.
Big, physical, smooth route runner, incredible body control. When you look at some of the catches that he made for Ohio State, just the ability to go up over the top of defenders and come down with the ball makes him special. And if you believe in Cam Ward, the same way we saw here with Bryce Young,
you want to get him
better
weapons.
go and get him a weapon,
Yeah.
and that's what you can see from the Tennessee Titans.
Well, guys, as we just got the 4th pick in, we are rolling through this. If you are just joining us right now, I just hit that is our Queen City News Plus live 3 p.m. music, but here we go. If you are just joining us, this is a very special edition of Carolina Sports Live Plus. We are following the NFL Draft live from Pittsburgh. Panthers are at pick 19. You got Gabe, McDonald, Kasey, Funderburg, Al Wallace, and Al, I'm actually going to give you a break for a little bit because, Gabe, we have a special guest joining us right now if you would like to bring him in.
Yeah, absolutely. A good friend of the program, Mr. Walker Mell. You see him, you hear him all the time. Covers the Hornets on FanDuel, on WFNZ as well, host of Wes and Walker. Walker, my man, draft night 2026. How you feeling? How's everything going for you, brother?
Hey, great to be here, man. I appreciate you having me. One of the more uncertain Carolina Panthers drafts that I can remember in quite some time. So excited to see what they're going to do at 19, or who knows, just whatever they're going to do in the first round.
And I think this is just interesting territory, too, when you think about, the last several years we've seen him in the top 10. We've seen him in the bottom half of the draft. Obviously in 2024, didn't have a first-round pick, trade back in to get Xavier Legette. When you think about just the biggest needs after what they did in free agency, because they did a solid job going out and getting guys like Jalen Phillips and even Devin Lloyd as well, what would you consider now, after those moves, the biggest need for him heading into 19?
Yeah, man. I mean, Dan Morgan even talked about it, how they are truly in a position to take best player available. But really what that means is they can really go into a bunch of different buckets of guys that might even be luxury picks.
Yeah.
Luxury pick seems a little strong. I'll use that in air quotes, but I think the biggest need now, if you just look at who could come in and start right away, I think that free safety, which of course would lend itself to Dylan Thieneman, the safety out of Oregon, the center field ball hawk type of safety, because they have Lathan Ransom on the roster alongside Trevon Merrick, but those guys are more so of the box safety type. So I would say the free safety is probably the biggest need. And then I think you're kind of going to some of these specialty positions like slot corner, like slot receiver, or maybe even somebody that just has that versatility with Jalen Coker lining up in the slot about 60% of the time in each of the first 2 seasons that he's been here in Carolina. So those would be the biggest needs for me. It's free safety as an outright 100% of the snaps per game type of starter would be free safety. And then it would be either slot corner or that receiver that can play on the outside, but certainly would have some ability to play at the slot position as well.
I've seen a lot of people, not a lot of people, but just over the last couple weeks, talk about getting someone to play that slot receiver position, which we thought would be kind of odd to see the Panthers go 3 receivers in a row. But Walker, I kind of agree with you. Like, that's been a position that could be filled with the Panthers. It's something that's been brought up in a couple mock drafts, that finding someone that could go there and could play that more specialty position might be the better pick for the Panthers going forward. I think you're right there on the money saying that, outside of a defensive player.
Well, it drives me crazy when people say you can't draft a wide receiver 3 years in a row in the first round. Yeah, if you hit on them all, but it doesn't look like you hit on all of them. If
you hit on one, you got one.
Right. Right. If it's a need, then it's a need.
Yeah.
Then you go after the need where you deem fit. And 19th overall, if Kasey Concepcion is your guy who does have that versatility to line up on the outside and in the slot, then go get him. If that guy just so happens to be Omar Cooper because you value the physical nature of his route running and running through guys to gain yards after the catch, then go get him. It doesn't matter if you drafted a wide receiver in the first round with XL and Teteroa McMillan. So I'm with you. I think if that's a need in the first round, then go take that guy. If you want to select somebody in the second or use one of these early round picks that often turn into starters more often than not, and that is a position that you want to go after. And even the different flavor of receiver, right?
Yeah.
Where you have T-Mac as this smooth route runner who can go get the ball at its highest point and does a lot of work in the intermediate area of the field. One of the best receivers in the league last year in the intermediate part, anywhere from 10 to 19 yards past the line of scrimmage. They need a deep threat. They need somebody that can gain a little more yards after the catch. And I think you have a couple of nice receivers to choose from in that window that they'll be selecting at currently with that 19th pick.
And I think Kasey is another guy that could possibly add that element in the return game, because that position has been rather spotty when you think about, kickoff returns and even punt returns as well, trying to find somebody that can make plays in that third phase of the game. Now, we're just 4 picks into the first round. We kind of had a good feeling about the first 2, but Jeremiah Love, first running back in the top 5 since Saquon Barkley, and then the Titans going with Carnell Tate, getting Cam Ward a weapon out there. What do you make of those 2 picks? Because it seems like a little bit of a shakeup early on there with those 3rd and 4th picks.
Totally fine with the Carnell Tate pick. I thought Sonny Styles was going to be the guy here, especially after the combine. So a little surprised, but it makes sense going after the top wide receiver in the draft to give to your second year now quarterback in Cam Ward. The Jeremiah Love pick, man, I don't get it. Look, this is not an indictment on the player because I love Jeremiah Love. He's actually one of my favorite running back prospects that have come out in quite some time.
He's been fun to watch for sure.
Man, he's so fun. I'm with the hurdles. I'm with the pass catching ability. I'm with all of it. But if you're Arizona, I mean, you talking about Carolina spending high picks at wide receiver in the first round each of the last 3 years. Arizona hasn't done it in the first round, but they just used a pick on Trey Benson. And so that was a second round guy. I guess they don't believe in him anymore. I know James Conner is coming off of a bunch of injuries, but he's always been a rock solid player for them. I guess he might not be coming back for him. But look, I think you go back to last year and you see what happened with Ashton Genty. I don't believe that Ashton Genty is a bad football player at all.
He doesn't have a line. He doesn't have an offensive line in front of him.
That's right. So it's just really hard to be an effective football player at that position without a good offensive line. In fact, I think what I would argue is if you have a really good offensive line, I think that honestly maybe emboldens you more to use higher resources on a running back, the better your offensive line is, because now what they can do is they can make those guys miss at the second level and then take it to the house. But if you don't have a chance because the defensive line is in your backfield right away, well, then what do you expect Love to do? Nobody thinks Genty is a bad football player, right? Like, it wasn't a great year for a top 10 pick out of Ashton Genty, who was getting offensive rookie of the year type buzz coming into the season. It's not his fault, but you can look at how effective he was for the football team, and it didn't lead to a whole lot of wins. What I think would is if you had your offensive line set, and then maybe you even got some weapons for Geno Smith, maybe a little bit more so, or set up your defense for more success. But instead you went with Genty, and okay, like now you can start building the offensive line. But what did the Raiders do this year? Well, okay, a new need popped up. Didn't expect quarterback to be a need. We thought we went after Geno Smith for a reason, but now it's Fernando Mendoza. All right, now we have to backtrack a little bit. Now we got to go get a QB, and we still don't have a lot of offensive line help. Cardinals still need a QB.
That is true.
So what are they going to do? Are they going to draft a QB this year in Ty Simpson? Okay, great. He might work out, but if he doesn't, then are you going to use Are you going to use a draft pick in 2027 on a quarterback where that's considered one of the best quarterback classes that we've seen in quite some time? Like, wouldn't you want to be in on that? And now you used to pick on Jeremiah Love, who might be awesome and still experience a year like Ashton Genty did. So I think he's a fantastic football player. I hate the pick here for Arizona.
All right, well, the Giants just picked at number 5. They went with Arvell Reese, so we were wondering when he would come off the board. So another Ohio State player, linebacker, obviously a big get for the Giants. Are you guys surprised the Giants decided to go defense there?
No, I think it was, you think about, just having the need there. You just got rid of, Dexter Lawrence to get an extra pick there. And I think, Arvell Reese was a guy that we thought could possibly go second overall, to the Jets, to the other team in New York. They end up going with Bailey out of Texas Tech. But, Walker, your thoughts on the pick, a guy that can be somewhat versatile, but I think the main thing, the argument with him and Bailey was the production against the potential there.
Yeah, well, Giants going after Arvell Reese is very interesting because you already have a smorgasbord of edge rushers up there with the Giants organization, right? Like you just had Brian Burns. They still have Thibodeau. That's right. They did get rid of Dexter Lawrence, but that's not an edge rusher on the defensive line. You would think he actually helped some of these edge rushers. You got rid of them. So now you're just replenishing that with more edge rushers here in Arvell Reese. And so Sonny Styles would have been an interesting pick. I thought he might go to the Giants if Tennessee didn't take him at 4. But now that Arvell Reese is here, are you going to be able to utilize him as that edge rusher alongside an Abdul Carter and a Brian Burns? Or do you want to use him more at that linebacker spot? And if you're going to use him more so at the linebacker spot, okay, like I can get around to that idea. But if you subscribe to high value positions, then maybe you would want to use him more as an edge rusher if you use a 5th overall pick on this guy. And that's where you start to question the value in terms of how you're going to use him. But I do like the versatility. I do like the fact that he can play both positions. And I'm a believer in the upside on Arvell Reese. Like, I think he's going to be a really good pro. So interesting pick. Didn't expect it. Didn't see a lot of it in the mock draft process or anything like that. And I think because they were already going into next season with Abdul Carter and Brian Burns, I would have expected them to kind of stay away from an edge hybrid even. But here they go with one. And I guess they're kind of taking a page out of the Ernie Accorsi books from way back in the day when they just selected edge rusher after edge rusher after edge rusher. They keep doing it again.
Now, I think we might have just had a trade. The Chiefs now on the clock at 6. It was originally the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Chiefs moving up to 6.
Pick is already
in.
in.
What direction do you think they go here?
I gotta be on the button quicker.
A very down year for the Chiefs, unlike what we've seen in recent years. They're moving up to 6.
Yeah.
This could potentially shake things up here.
So, I mean, I think Ruben Bain would have been interesting, but I don't think they would.
Do you buy the short arms argument when it comes to him?
Yeah. You're out on that. Like I'm good with drafting Ruben Bain, even with the outlier arms. I just think the dude is such a monster.
He's a dog,
It's worth paying attention to if it's such an outlier, but I'm still just going to roll past it and draft him anyway. So an edge rusher would have been interesting, but now with Arvell off the board, with Bailey off the board, of course, that was expected. Do they just decide to go after a monster in Sonny Styles? This is kind of interesting. I think Delane would have been also a good pick because they just got rid of McDuffie after trading him. But I think they would have stood pat and taken a cornerback. True. So this one's a little surprising. I don't think that you would trade up for Bain. Sonny Styles again, like the guy just kind of has an impenetrable resume with the few missed tackle rates, the excellent film that he puts out there on the field with Ohio State. The combine was otherworldly. Maybe Styles is the guy.
Could be.
Yeah. So how many? Okay, that's 2 Ohio State guys so far?
Yeah, we got 2 so far. Tate and Reese.
So we could potentially see 4 in the top 10.
Potentially, yeah. I mean,
they had a great season, but it's just the fact that these guys are also just filling so many needs for these teams. I mean, it's just really impressive and just shows you what they were able to do.
And Sonny Styles could be an interesting one there. I mean, you put him on that defense, and you kind of have just an extra element there. I think that could be potentially a difference maker as they try to return to the Chiefs that we've seen over the last, decade and some change.
Well, they also just spent a lot of money, the Chiefs did, on their offensive line. I mean, they were doing everything for Mahomes. Obviously, he got hurt there towards the end of the season. So it seems like they had still the same pieces that they had in previous years. Just something wasn't clicking for them. I mean, defensively, they just did not show up whatsoever in any of their games. So I don't know. I mean, I think we were all pretty surprised with everything that went down with them last season. But I'm actually surprised to see that they did this trade and that Cleveland wanted to trade too.
Absolutely. Walker, any chance they go white out here?
Yeah.
Any chance they go white out?
So that's the hard part because all of the guys that I had going to Kansas City and the guys that I had Kansas City trading up for, which this world existed, I just all of the players that make sense to me, a Delane, I think they could have just hung tight and taken him.
They could have stood pat and got him at 9.
Jordan Tyson. As long as you're ahead of the Giants there at 10 with the reported interest in Tyson, I think they probably could have just stayed there too. Maybe they were a little worried about the Giants jumping ahead again, but Would you do that after already having 2 top 10 picks? Do you do it again, go up further? I don't think so. I think they probably could have just stayed where they were and drafted Jordan Tyson a little bit later.
They got your boy.
They got Delane.
They got Delane from LSU.
Is that right? Okay, so they wanted to secure it then.
Yeah, they wanted to get Mansour Delane, six overall pick out of LSU, DBU, the real one. I'm from Louisiana, so there's a little bit of bias there. But obviously, a guy that you've talked a lot about. Your thoughts on the pick and what he's going to be able to do for a defense, especially with him losing a guy like McDuffie to the Rams.
And it's huge to replace that. What's funny about the Chiefs is they were kind of a victim of their own development program for corners. They've done such a great job at developing corners everywhere they've drafted them. McDuffie late in the first all those years ago. L'Jarius Sneed was an awesome pick for them. I think he was like a 4th round selection at that time and showed up right away as a rookie. And so I think a lot of people just viewed, give Kansas City any old 4th round pick at corner and they'll make it work. And it's true, right? They've done that so often. But if you're that defensive coordinator in Steve Spagnuolo, I'm like, man, can you give me just a really talented guy though? Like, would it be cool if I got a top 10 selection at corner to make work, especially on those exotic corner cap blitzes, which he likes to do in crunch time, by the way, and someone that just is going to body you up out there, out wide, make instinctual plays on the football too, coming off of his man, maybe even in zone. So I really like Mansour Delane for Kansas City. I thought they could have just hung tight and taken him there, which is why I was like, okay, I didn't expect him to trade up to go get him, but I have no problem with it. If that's your dude, then that's your dude, and you go up and get him, especially for a team that's trying to win now, trying to contend. So I have no problem with it. Love the replacement here with McDuffie gone.
Hey, they went and got him, so definitely a solid pick. And now 6 picks in the books. Walker, always appreciate your insight, my man. Look forward to hearing you every day on Wes and Walker, especially tomorrow afternoon to break down what happens tonight with the Carolina Panthers and everything in the future. Appreciate you for coming on, my man, and enjoy the rest of the draft night, brother.
Thanks, guys. Had a blast. Appreciate it.
Just heard from WFNZ's Walker Mel, host of Wes and Walker, breaking down all things draft. 6 picks in the books. Commanders now on the clock. Then we have another NFC South squad in the New Orleans Saints. And then obviously the Browns going to be picking there at 9th overall where the Chiefs were before. I think Sonny Styles still being on the board, very surprising. But with the Commanders being on the clock now, obviously you got Frankie Louvu, a former Panther, but you do have Bobby Wagner getting up there in age. You want to get the heir apparent there and get a young guy to come in and learn from him. I think that could be the route that they go right here if they end up going Sonny Styles. And it would be a heck of a pick for Washington if that ends up being where they go.
Yeah, you just look at DQ Dan Quinn and that style of defense. The reason why Frankie Louvu decided to leave the Carolina Panthers
wanted to play for him,
and wanted to play for him because of his relationship with guys like Micah Parsons that played that similar position. And I think Sonny Styles is so athletic, so versatile that you can throw him in. And I'm a little shocked that he hasn't come off the board yet, but you can kind of see how this is playing out. The only puzzling pick so far for me is the Giants. They're stockpiling edge rushers. I don't know if Arvell Reese is going to play on the edge.
Exactly.
You got Brian
Who's going to be on
Burns,
the interior?
Thibodeau's still there.
Yeah.
And crazy enough, I forgot Abdul Carter was on that roster as well. So now you have a bunch of guys that kind of do similar things. So it may be that Reese is going to play off the ball a little bit and roam around and be kind of a jack of all trades in that defense.
I would think so. You can't run a speed package with just edge rushers the whole time. You
I'd run a draw right at those dudes.
You got to have some beef in there to be able to stop the run.
Down. Yeah.
So I think that'll be interesting to see because I think they'll probably go offense with the later pick that they do have. But yeah, definitely a puzzling one there. And even the Chiefs making that trade, I still haven't seen the details for it yet. Hearing reports that possibly a 3rd and a 6th rounder could be involved.
3rd and a 5th. They swapped the 6th and the 9th pick, and then they get a 3rd and a 5th.
So I mean, quite a haul for the Browns. There is a team that's still trying to build as well. And the Chiefs, they get their replacement for Trip McDuffie, a guy that obviously put together some great years out there, and probably likely going to continue to do the same for the Rams, coming off a solid run too. But I think now it'll be just interesting to see, just what route the Commanders go, and then obviously got the Saints coming up on the board here pretty soon.
And their pick is in, so you know what that means.
Oh, yes.
Time to play the Saints.
There it is, folks.
Delane was one of my favorite fits of the
have a good
night.
one.
I just loved the color. I loved the chain.
He was iced out. Yeah.
Wait, was he the lavender one?
Yes,
Yes.
that was him in the lavender.
Button to the top, but it just worked. Like I liked it. That was a good one.
Commanders pick is in. We'll see what
And as we were waiting for that, I mean, again, we just showing the now this was the draft order, as of 50 minutes ago heading into this.
Just swap 6 and 9. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, that's it. That's an easy one. Yeah, way to put it. Hey, thanks. I can follow along.
Like Drake said, 6 upside down, it's a 9 now.
Oh, my God.
And Delane said they made the best move in the draft. Hey? So, hey.
Yeah, hopefully he lives up to it. I mean, we know LSU DBs typically are able to have some success.
Sorry to cut you off there, Gabe, but finally, Sonny Styles is off the board.
Hey, there it is.
The linebacker from Ohio State going to the Commanders.
Definitely a good pick there. A guy that's going to come in, has some great guys to learn from. He's going to be able to learn from a great coach, but also 2 veteran guys that have done it at a high level for quite a while. So I think he's going to be stepping into a good situation. He's not going to be asked to do a whole lot early. Obviously, he's going to come in and contribute right away, but knowing that you have 2 veterans there, Bobby Wagner, we'll see just how much longer he has playing in his career, but he'll be able to take over eventually pretty soon, and he's going to be a star in that defense for a long time.
He's going to learn from a good one.
Yeah, no, he definitely is.
Couldn't be a better place. I was thinking the Tennessee Titans, of course, Robert Saleh, and he's a great coach, familiar with a guy named Fred Warner, who is very similar to the comps there for Sonny Styles. But you go to the Commanders, Dan Quinn has done it on as high level as anybody. Remember his days with the Seattle Seahawks and the players he had there, including Bobby Wagner, who we were talking about. But this guy's a playmaker, football player, and you look at those Ohio State guys, you can see why they won a title. The previous season it came up short this year in 2025, but man, just great athletes all over that field. Still one on the board, back on the back end, that 3rd level in Caleb Downs. So we'll see where he lands. Another incredible football player from the safety position.
I will say, because we are streaming live right now to the Queen City News Facebook page and the Queen City News YouTube page, we have a delightful comment in from our own Julian Sador about the Sonny Styles.
I'm sure he's very excited.
All right, I'm going to back up from the mic just to recreate it. Sonny Styles, baby! And there's about, I think, 10 or 12 exclamation points on that.
That doesn't surprise me. Being on the morning show this morning, he was definitely looking forward to tonight and obviously seeing who his team was going to get. And they got a dog, man. I mean, just watching him, watching the tape, seeing him at the combine just a freak of an athlete. I mean, he's going to have a very special career for a long time, and he's going to a great spot too, no doubt.
I really loved watching him answer reporters' questions at the combine when we were getting all that back. I just love, he takes so much time in thinking about what he's going to say and gives these long, thought-out answers. And just the way he carries himself and the way he explains things, I just found it to be just overall, the fact that he's got the skill, the talent, he can sit there and really articulate what he's thinking, what he's feeling. He's just really, really impressive altogether. And I really enjoyed listening to his whole media scrum because we were going through a lot of that and, sharing stuff on CSL, and just to hear him and a couple of the other guys just talk, you can tell that maybe it's with NIL or just being at the caliber that they are as players, that they have really grown up, I feel like, in these last few years. And they know, kind of back to what you were talking about, Al, now they've now with NIL, they're going into it like it's not this life-changing thing like it used to be. It's now like, I'm just going to work.
They're pros.
Yeah. That he carried himself like a pro. I think that's what I'm trying to get to. And so he was just really, really impressive to listen to and to watch, and it's going to be cool to see what he does for the Commanders.
And when you see the story, and you know his mom, and you heard her talk about the training that both he and his brother had with Dad, they've been prepared. They remind you of the Balls, the St. Browns. You can just go on and on about these families that have created these kids. They have a purpose for them since they were very, very little. So they are prepared for the moments that you see now in front of the cameras, asking or answering the questions. And it is no mistake that colleges are putting professionals in place to get these kids, these young men, ready for these opportunities to be on the brightest stage. And it's very impressive. A 22-year-old, I would have stumbled over every word. It would have been
I do it at 30.
You're doing it right now.
They're prepared.
I did it
amazing
10 seconds ago.
These guys are ready.
And no doubt. And that's a guy that, eventually is going to likely grow into, the green dot guy for a defense. You want a guy like that that's going to be commanding your defense, that can be a leader of men, and showing that at such a young age, a guy that's wise beyond his years. That's a good sign of a leader that we all know that he's going to eventually be, and there's going to be a lot thrown at him, but he's certainly a guy that's well prepared for what's ahead of him, no doubt.
Saints pick is in.
Oh, wait.
Our first NFC South member on the board for this one. So we'll see what route they go. Obviously, last year, Saints finishing last in the division at 6-10. He had 3 teams at 8-9. Carolina Panthers, of course, with the tiebreaker and winning the NFC South crown. But
what a gross
Saints,
ending.
Yeah, no, and the Saints did show some growth down the end. So I think, to see in the division race this year, when you think about, Tyler Shuck coming in the second half of the season,
Impressive.
what he was able to do as well. You think about just the time on the bench early in the season probably helped him behind Spencer Rattler. Then he comes in. Now, much to the dismay of Panthers fans, the Saints ended up getting both wins over Carolina, and obviously he came up big in those games as well. But now it's how are they going to be able to build just to create a little bit of a rivalry there in the coming years? Because I think we can all agree this division is one that's still up for the taking. Any of these 4 teams could emerge and, rise from the top and eventually, get that crown. And, we'll see if it ends up being the black and blue again this year.
I think you're going to see a little mini run on receivers right here.
Yeah.
Again, we talk about Cam Ward. He gets Carnell Tate, right?
For sure.
You get your receiver. Tyler Shuck is going to get a wide receiver.
Yeah, because after Chris Olave, a guy that's dealt with injuries, don't really have a lot of depth in that room too. So I think you could see them. We even talk about maybe not. I mean, all the teams in the division, because you think about Tampa, Mike Evans no longer here. I'm sure a lot of Panthers fans are very happy about that now.
I'm glad.
And San Francisco as well. So I think you look across the division. Receiver could be a potential need for all of these teams, honestly.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see which one of these receivers go off the board next. Yeah. But it also starts to set up in my mind. We talked about 3 straight first-round receiver draft picks for the Panthers. If one of those guys is going to be there, and I think they're going to get a weapon here with this pick for the New Orleans Saints. A wide receiver is going to go there. They need help all over the place, but they showed some glimpses with Tyler Shuck, who's was one of the older quarterbacks.
The last guy that's going to be drafted, born in the 90s.
That's right.
Yeah, everybody else is getting drafted from now on. He was the last 90s born player to be drafted last year. So that just shows the times that we're living. As we get older, they get younger. So that's the league is getting younger and younger, and we're about to get that pick here shortly too.
So as we wait for the Saints pick to come in, I'm wondering at what point in this draft do you feel like the Panthers, I mean, obviously they're going into it with a lot of different targets of who they want. At what point does it really start to materialize? Like what kind of picks are you thinking?
Probably about 5-ish picks before. Okay. I think once we hit the teens around 12, 13, we'll probably see a little bit more shakeup there and how other teams go, and then you'll kind of have a clear picture of just how things are going to go if we see a potential run, because sometimes there is a domino effect, whether it's on tackles or receivers. There's going to be a lot in a row or a lot in every few picks. So I think once we hit the teens, get to about 12, 13, 14, about 5 picks before, I think we'll have a clear picture.
Yeah, we haven't seen any of the big dogs go yet. Those offensive linemen. There are a number of interior offensive limenmen. A few, Caden Proctor out of Alabama, big
Spencer
left
Fano
tackles,
out of Utah.
Mwaga out of Miami. Once we see those guys come off the board, I think they're going to clear the way for the Carolina Panthers to make a more definitive decision. I agree. Once you get around 15, they'll have a better idea, starting to pick off those last 4 or 5 possibilities where they could land.
Fano was a guy that I kept picking in our show. I was like,
I
I just really like him, and I would really like for him to go to the Panthers, but I will be very surprised if he is an option and if they go that route when it's their time to pick.
Roger Goodell heading to the stage now. Looks like he's hyping up the crowd. Probably some boos coming in out there in Pittsburgh.
Of course.
You
have to.
Pittsburgh is a pretty cool place. Like,
it is.
Like, I don't know, as from a player standpoint, if it was fun to play there or not, or if the fans were. When I was a kid, though, I hated the fans with the
terrible
yellow towels.
Hated
those fans.
And we saw Jerome Bettis, one of the guys I played against on the field. You're talking about a guy weigh as much as I did trying to tackle him. So not always my favorite place, but certainly a great sports town, great sports city that just loves their players.
Jordan Tyson, wide receiver, Arizona State.
We said, I think this is now where we're going to see a run on receivers. I thought it would probably be Mekhi Lemon out of Southern Cal, but they go with another guy from out west, Jordan Tyson, and ESPN's coverage, they listed receiver as the biggest need, and that's the route that the Saints go. So the first NFC South team making their pick here in the 2026 draft, the New Orleans Saints, Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State.
And that's number 8, right?
Yeah,
not
8th overall.
Okay,
so now we're to Cleveland, who, like we talked about earlier, made that trade with the Chiefs earlier. I will say I've never been to a game in Pittsburgh. At least I've been to a Pittsburgh game, not a Steelers game. Been to a baseball game there. It was a good time. But they've got like these tiki boats that you can take, because a lot of people will take boats across the river to get to the stadium to go to the game.
Yeah.
And they've got like a tiki bar boat. So you can hop on the tiki bar and ride the
Sounds
boat
like a
and
good
then
time.
go to the
Dangerous.
game. And I was like, that is really cool. And, I'm from Tennessee where there's the Vol Navy. They've got all the boats on the river right outside the stadium. And I'm like, why has someone not thought about this in Knoxville? Because I feel like that would be a good ad.
I will say, when I lived in Jacksonville, there was a service you could rent, and my wife and I had talked about it for our wedding. There's a person who drives around. It's a limousine. It is the chicken limousine.
Oh my gosh.
It is a bright yellow, just old school limousine with the big chicken head on top, and some people would take that to Jags games. Duval is underrated, or just crazy sometimes.
It is. Got to experience the season opener there for the Panthers last year. Very hot in September, and I think we had there was a lightning delay for like 2 hours as well. So we're just like, what do we even do at
Good
this
old
point?
Florida.
Yeah,
State.
started
to
my
the hot
career
tub.
there with Tom Coughlin.
Yeah.
And Mark Brunell and
Legendary
those
coach,
guys,
yeah.
right? Back in the day, 1997.
Wow.
So yeah, that long ages ago, but Jacksonville has certainly changed, and
they're going to be building or renovating.
Stadium.
When I was there, I think it was
Yeah.
TIAA Bank Field, but now they're
I think
redoing
Everbank
the whole
maybe
thing.
now.
Yeah, Everbank.
There was
that's
a lot
it.
of construction going on. I remember being there last year. There was very tough to navigate there after the game for post-game duties and everything. I'm like, where do I even go?
Did you see the people in the pool?
I did.
yeah, I'm not doing the pool.
No,
yeah,
you don't.
all
Yeah,
the beer that everybody drinks during a football
and you
game.
sweat.
Yeah,
like,
public
thanks.
pool at a
I'm good
at
on
an NFL
everybody
game.
else's body fluids.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Do
I have
that.
crossed off 2 goals tonight. I have
Hey.
brought up the chicken limo and the Jacksonville Jaguars pool.
Hey, here's some.
I'm good.
Here's some emotion though.
I was
for
about
those
to
watching
bring
the
that
draft.
up.
I mean, Jordan Tyson
Yeah.
brought to
the
tears.
most
Holding up
emotional
the
player
jersey.
so far,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just a guy that's excited to be able to live out his dreams, and we'll see just what his career is going to be in New Orleans. JC Horn, Mike Jackson. That's going to be a new opponent for you guys. Coming up this year.
Yeah, that's he's a tough cover.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he's
You just broke
some
down
injuries,
a little bit of the tape. Yeah.
but you look at comps and they're talking about Odell Beckham Jr. You go on YouTube and you watch this kid show his athleticism. It is off the world, like off the charts. Like this guy can jump, body control, hands. He should have obviously been a top 10 pick here, but I think he is maybe the most talented, most athletic receiver out of the bunch here today.
Well, guys, as we kind of get a little bit closer, because I think now we're on pick 9, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
About to be on
So as
that
we get a
10
little bit
picks away.
closer, if you guys are just joining us, again, this is a very special, let's start the whole room here. This is a very, very special first ever live streaming event of the NFL Draft. We got Gabe McDonald, Kasey Funderburg, the legendary Al Wallace. I'm your producer, Austin McCollum. We are covering just every pick as it comes in leading up to pick 19. And we actually have a very special kind of guest pick, if you will. Friend of the station, friend of the show, David Fowler. He sent us a video that I'm going to play of what he is kind of expecting, again, with 10 picks left until the Panthers. Let's take a look.
What's happening, all my Carolina football fans? I'm David Fowler, Vice President and owner of 1 Hour Heating and Air, Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, and On Time Electrical. Today we're going to talk about the Carolina Panthers and the upcoming 2026 NFL Draft. Where are we at? Where are we headed? Who might we take? I guess we'll see. So let's dive into it. Where are we at? Well, we've had some injuries on our offensive line. Do we take an offensive lineman? I don't know. We have some other needs, right? We need a tight end. Well, there's a dang good one. Our guy Sadiq from Oregon. I think that could be a great option. Or maybe we take Stowers from Vanderbilt, right? Also a stud, could maybe even fall later in the NFL draft. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Safety. We need a safety. I think we got Nick Scott back. That's good. We got Ransom last year from Ohio State. He was a rookie, had a pretty good year, but I think we could still use some depth there. If Caleb Downs lasts past top 10 from Ohio State, that guy's an absolute stud. I think they have him ranked number 1 in the safety class. So if he falls where we can take him in the first round, or maybe we can trade up to get him, I think that would be a great pick, Edge rushers. Do we need edge rushers? I think we did a solid job over the offseason, right? We got Devin Lloyd. That guy's a 3-down back, right? A 3-down linebacker. He can stop the run. He can rush the passer, right? And he also can cover tight ends on 3rd down. Major steal in the offseason. The next guy, Jalen Phillips, right? Drafted by Miami, played a year for the Eagles. Just paid the man, right? So I'm excited to see what he's going to bring to the team. He gets after the quarterback. The NFL, You win the games in the trenches, right? Offensive line. We put a lot of money into our offensive line, right? We have Moten. We have Lewis. We have Hunt. I know Icky's out, right? So that's a little iffy, right? We unfortunately, he had the injury in the wild card game last year. So what do we do about that? Well, the staff goes and picks up 2 tackles, right? I think we got Stone Forsythe, came from Seattle. We also got Rasheed Walker, came from Green Bay. Both guys are vets in the leagues. We'll see. So is there a tackle that can fall that maybe makes sense? Only time will tell. I think, again, the best play is to take the best available player.
All right, David Fowler from 1 Hour Heating and Air, Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, and On Time Electric, kind of giving us his insight, his takes. He's obviously a big Panthers fan. He's got the Burns jersey behind him. Like, he came ready.
No, he did. And I think, you talk about all the different players that he listed off. There's definitely a lot of different routes that they could go. Now, we do know he did mention Spencer Fano. He's now officially off the board there, going 9th overall.
Sorry, David.
to the Cleveland Browns. So the dreams of getting, the tackle of the future, at least for now, you're not getting Spencer Fano. There's probably going to be some other guys. But I think now is probably where we see the run on tackles that we know that, Cleveland needed one bad, and they got him. And now the Giants pick is already in, so they're starting to come off pretty quickly. The final pick of the top 10 right here by the New York Giants. Francis Mauigoga. So another tackle, back-to-back tackles. So you have I think the run is definitely starting now, Al, where we're going to see a lot of these guys go, and this could potentially impact things for the Panthers. You see all these tackles going now. Do you wait to probably get, a value pick or a depth guy maybe day 2 if, with these 2 guys now off the board?
Yeah, it's pushing those skill position players down that we previously talked about for the Carolina Panthers. But protecting your star quarterback is so essential in today's game. We listed it, right? Get a quarterback. Get somebody to protect said quarterback, and then you go get somebody to work against those 2, go hunt up the quarterback at edge. And so now you're starting to see the big boys with the lays on, the Polynesian guys, the big physical, rugged, just are incredible athletes, are just dogs when you turn on the tape and you watch these guys move other grown men off the line of scrimmage. And it is all so fun to watch them go to work like they often do in college, and now be making that transition to the NFL.
They experience no pain, I feel like. I don't know if you all have ever watched videos where someone from a Polynesian family has gotten hurt or has a sore ankle. They got a way of rubbing those ankles out. They're like, you're not getting an X-ray. You're not putting a brace on. We are going to rub the swelling out, and you're going to be good to go. I mean, like you were saying, Al, they are tough. They work. They're physical. They're fun to watch. And then also, too, I just love, we were talking about this earlier, I just love how much family and culture means to them. It's so cool. And I feel like most teams do a good job of celebrating that and showing that. I think T-Mac, we maybe saw a little bit of that with him and his family. So it's always cool just to see that and see different cultures here joining these teams.
No doubt. Looks like we have another trade as well. The Dolphins were on the clock. Now the Cowboys up to 11. They're also picking 12th overall. So back-to-back picks coming up, at least for now, for the they swapped picks.
They swapped,
Miami is now going to be picking 12. Dallas traded up just 1 spot. So I think there's definitely a guy they have their eye on. If you're going to move up 1 spot, they definitely want to make sure that, the guy that they want is the guy that they're going to get, and that pick is in, and we'll see just who it is shortly. The Cowboys trading up 1 spot to 11th overall. Their pick is in, and then we'll have the Dolphins and then the Rams picking after. Of course, the Panthers just a few picks away there at 19th overall. But, this run on tackles, I think, did we see another tackle come off here to Dallas? I think there's a lot of other needs out there when you think about just all the different things that they have going on, but this potentially could be another tackle of the future when you think about just the history of that position there for that franchise too.
Yeah, that team is known for running game, right? The defense has struggled the last couple of years, but if they want to get back to Dallas Cowboy football, especially on the offensive side, it starts with protecting Dak Prescott and allowing him to get the ball down the field to CeeDee Lamb and maybe George Pickens.
Sign the franchise tag. We'll see what the future holds there.
What happens on that front. But, it starts up front on that O&D line. That's where football is won. And if you have a need there, this is the time. You see the top 2 guys go off the board now. There's still a bunch of great offensive linemen that are going to go here in the first round. If you can grab one, Dallas did not wait. They wanted to move up to get their guys. We'll see who that is. It'll be interesting to see what Mr. Jones, old Jerry, does down there in Dallas with this pick.
Do you think after seeing now who the Chiefs and the Browns ended up going with, do you guys feel like they made a good decision there with the trade?
I believe so, because I think, they're probably – the run on tackles probably could have started a bit earlier. I think had, Cleveland stayed there and went another route, and I think they would have missed out on getting their guy. And I think still the Chiefs, they could have got Delane there at 9th overall. I think he's probably a guy that maybe would have fallen a little bit further, but I still think a solid trade for him, and they both get guys that they desperately need. You think about the Chiefs getting a corner with Trent McDuffie gone. The Browns obviously wanted to protect whoever is going to be their starter. We'll see if it's Deshaun Watson, Shador, or somebody else, but they still had to get a guy there to protect them. So definitely a solid trade there, and yeah, we'll see just how many more trades that we have tonight. I think we'll have a lot more other GMs working the phones, including one potentially Dan Morgan.
Yeah, Dan's gonna, I think, will and deal. I don't know about 19, but he'll find a way
day 2, day
to
3,
get some
I think
value, especially on like you said, Gabe, day 2, day 3. There's still a ton of tight ends. If you don't get the top guy in Sadiq out of Oregon, then maybe you look back in the middle rounds where there are incredibly talented tight ends that you can bring in to supplement what you have already. But man, as you show Sadiq right there, is just a guy that just, he just is going to be a matchup nightmare for safeties and certainly linebackers, and a handful because of the size, 6'4", 241 pounds, going against a nickel cornerback. You better go big nickel because that dude, you look at him, he's built for the part. He certainly looks the part off the bus.
Looking at, just ESPN's best available, you got obviously Caleb Downs is next up
Still
on the list,
there.
but you also got a lot of other linemen as well. Monroe Freeling out of Georgia, Olai Vavega Ioane from Penn State, even a guy like Caden Proctor, who was once 400 pounds, lost a ton of weight and got in some good shape, and he's still going to be a dog as well. It was cool kind of watching the story on his journey as well to get, into better shape and get ready, because we don't see many 400-pounders in the NFL, not at left tackle.
No.
I think, just a guy that's coming in too. You even got Reuben Bain still on the board. So a number of positions there. There's a couple safeties down there. Dylan Thieneman, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren out of Toledo. Toledo been putting out a lot of DBs, recently. We think about Quinyon Mitchell and a lot of other guys, coming from the small school ranks. So still a lot of talent on the board, and I still think a lot of guys that the Panthers could benefit from drafting too. So we'll see how things shake out. The Cowboys still currently the pick is being in, and then you got the Dolphins, and starting now that middle range. We want to talk about this range from now 11 to 20. The Carolina Panthers have actually had a lot of success, in that range over the last few years. You think about the guy calling the shots, Dan Morgan, 11th overall in 2001. Thomas Davis, 14th overall. You got Jonathan Stewart, the all-time leading rusher. Even Brian Burns. I think this is a range where, some teams, you're in that middle ground. You don't necessarily want to be here because you either want to be in the playoffs and picking later, or you want to be picking in the top 10. But still, the Panthers have shown that they're able to hit in this spot, and I think this could be a sweet spot for them, especially when you think about all the guys still on the board right now.
Yeah, just those names alone. Some of the all-time great Carolina Panthers, Morgan, TD, the all-time leading rusher in Panthers history, Jonathan Stewart. Star Lotulelei was the second pick, or no, he was the first pick. KK Short came after that in the second round, and then Brian Burns. I mean, you made some great decisions right there, and what you get is guys that are highly motivated in that middle pack of the first round.
Probably feel a little slighted.
Should have been top 10, come in with a chip on their shoulder. So I look for Dan Morgan to make a really smart decision. He's done that, and I think last year we started to see the plan kind of come to fruition here for Dan and Dave Canales.
Yeah, we should have the Cowboys pick here in a moment to see
old Jerry, Stephen
what
Jones.
they decided to do.
Biggest needs are listed as a linebacker and edge, so we'll see if that's the move for them. Cornerback, even defensive lineman. Roger Goodell at the stage right now, so we'll have that pick here in just a few seconds.
That Cowboys game last year with the Panthers. All right, Caleb Downs. I was wondering when he was going to come off the board.
Listed as best available, and he's the next guy off the board. The safety of the future there for them, and another Buckeye off the board from that defensive side of the ball. I mean, it's what we've seen year after year, a number of guys from Ohio State being able to go in the first round. It just shows the kind of program they have, the talent that they're able to get, and how they're able to develop these guys, too, to get them ready for the moments like this.
Oh, looks like we'll probably be seeing him, maybe.
More than likely.
Yeah. But, hey, the Cowboys, that was a game I feel like where the Panthers this past season, we were like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, I think
everyone thought they were going to come in and, their offense was so
top.
good at that point. And the Panthers, for me, that's when they surprised me. And I was like, okay, maybe there's something here.
I think that was really the first, true signature win of the season. You had a handful of those. Obviously, you go to Lambeau a few weeks later. You got the Rams coming in, and you're able to beat them. But that Cowboys game, it really, you could sense the shift at that moment because the week before, that Dolphins game was really going the other way. They were down 17-0. We didn't think they'd be able to make the comeback. They're able to do that. Rico Dowdle, of course, is Rico Dowdle in that game.
Called a shot.
Yeah, he did.
Buckle up.
And he's and for those 2 weeks in a row, he was able to put the league on notice as well. But you mentioned that game. That was really a true turning point and part of that big win streak that they had there, in the month of October, being able to rattle off those 3 wins in the row and then set themselves up for what they were able to do in that the back half of the year too.
Yep. All right, the Dolphins pick is in.
Here we go.
I will never get tired of hitting this little.
No, of course.
A little
Sound
sound
effect
effect
button.
is good here and there.
Caleb Downs with a nice 3-piece suit. Got the vest on as well. Got the little the chain. I don't know, the chain going from the vest
didn't
to the
back in the day people put a watch there? Or
yeah.
something?
You would have
pocket chain,
you have
pocket
a little
watch,
pocket watch. Yeah. So we got the Dolphins.
Who's
Their
missing the
pick is
watch?
in, and then the Rams at 13th. Baltimore picking at 14th. So getting close to the
Baltimore.
Panthers making their pick here pretty soon. But Caleb Downs was listed as ESPN's best available next off the board, and now we'll see what direction the Dolphins are going. Another team with a first-year head coach, and you got Malik Willis down there playing quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa now an Atlanta Falcon. Still crazy to
That
even think
is
about.
weird.
So it's definitely a different direction down there in Miami as they try to figure things out in the post Mike McDaniel with the capri pants era and
Miami
the nice
emptied
watches.
the cupboards down there. Just
Yeah.
think about Malik Willis. You decide to get some money now. He got paid to go down there,
Yeah.
and then they start trading off all of your weapons.
Yeah.
That's a miserable feeling. Now, you guys know I'm a South Florida guy, Delray Beach.
Yeah.
I grew up, my family, my friends, parents, they're Miami Dolphins fans. So I know they're miserable right now thinking of what this season could hold for them with such high expectations with the Malik Willis signing, but then that roster completely changed. So it's going to be a few years before, they're back down there at Hard Rock celebrating some Miami wins.
Yeah, absolutely not. It's all about, building things the right way. Could we see potentially a Hurricane become a Dolphin? Ruben Bain still on the board. You talk about all the trades that they've made and Messidor as well. I mean, there's a lot of other guys that we could potentially see here, but I think it's definitely an interesting direction when you think about the Dolphins coming in and even 2 picks after them. You got the Ravens, another team going in a different direction. First-time head coach, the John Harbaugh era. Now he's in New York, which is still, going to be
That's
crazy
gonna
to
be
see him.
weird.
And
That
it's
is gonna
crazy
be
to see him
weird.
in blue and red after all those years out there. But Miami, definitely a tough road ahead, and we'll see if this pick can set themselves up for the future or if it'll be some years for them down there in the 305 before they're back to prominence as well. So, just a few more picks to the Carolina Panthers. And, the folks in Dallas seem to be pretty excited about getting their safety of the future.
Yeah. Jerry got a
Caleb
bunch of
Downs.
those sons around to pat him on the back. Good job, Dad.
You did it.
You did it. You made the right choice. But this Dallas Cowboys defense needs a physical roaming safety like Caleb Downs that can just be a playmaker all over the field. And they've been missing that. They were thin at the linebacker position, a true interior linebacker position, and that secondary outside of the corners that suffered some injuries, they just didn't have the guy on that third level, that back end that can be a playmaker. I think Caleb Downs can do that. He could help this team start to return to Cowboy defense that could help that offense that at one point, like we talked about, was one of the tops in the league. They were the highest scoring producing offense in the NFL, I believe, when they came here to the Queen City.
They did.
They were. Dak was on fire. I think literally after that game was when things just started to kind of crumble for them. All right, Dolphins pick is in.
Oh, you know what time it is, Kasey.
Here we go.
Oh, Caden Proctor.
Caden Proctor. We're going with the offensive tackle. So you go get Malik
Alabama.
Willis. You go get
Give him a
somebody to protect
chance.
him. That's
Give
the
him
thing.
a
You want to
chance.
be able to have the guy that's upright, and Caden Proctor definitely, just a monster there on the offensive line for Bama for so many years, and a guy that's coming in and certainly hungry to be able to, help turn a franchise around. But like we talked about, you got your quarterback, a guy that, obviously put together a few solid games to get his payday up there in Green Bay and now going to Miami, but now you got somebody to protect him. I think this is the right way to build it. You want to build from the inside out. You don't want to stockpile a lot of skill players and then don't have anybody to block for them. You go and address one of the biggest needs at offensive tackle. And, Caden Proctor, now a Miami Dolphin, first player from Alabama off the board in this year's draft.
Roll Tide. That is for my dad. I'm sure he's tuning in.
And he's
a
iced
Bama
out.
fan.
He got a lion on his chain. Seeing he's
His
iced
suit
out
was
for
another
sure.
good one too.
Yeah, I like the design on it.
return to the classic man right here in this draft. I'm feeling it. Just simple, double-breasted suits.
We don't need any crop tops. Ezekiel
These
Elliott.
are young guys. Yeah, we don't need the crop tops. They're going to show off a little, ice. You see that? Get it right. Position it in the middle. The earrings and watches. The jewelry guys, trust me when I tell you this, they show up to the hotels with cases of jewelry for you to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you're like really theater of the mind doing this for me right
you're
now.
You're a couple hundred
like
down by the time you walk across that stage. 100,000 or more down by the time you walk across this stage. Those big guys. But a big physical offensive guy, but a guy that I would love playing against as an edge rusher. Yeah. In passing situations, that's a lot of man.
Yeah, passing, you're able to kind
of. Can you move your feet?
For sure.
Can you move that mass? And that's going to be the transition for Caden Proctor. Can he move his feet?
I just got a text that says, "Get ready, Rams picking Ty." Who is this?
Ty Simpson.
Ty Simpson.
Alabama QB.
They want their heir apparent to Matt Stafford. I mean, coming off an MVP season, a guy that's obviously been in the league since 2009. He doesn't have a whole lot of years left, so you want to get your QB of the future. If this ends up being the pick, we'll see when it officially comes in.
The story of the draft.
Absolutely, because I didn't think this would be a guy to go this early in the top half. I think there's been a lot of talk of him, possibly being an early day 2 pick, maybe later in the first round to come in and be a backup for, another starter as well. But if the Rams go here, especially after all the moves they made, I think this is maybe setting themselves up for the future. I don't know what Ty Simpson's ultimately going to be at the next level, though. A really small sample size from what we saw at Alabama.
And we know that. That's a proven statistic. If those guys don't have 25 starts, and that's what kind of that line is for quarterbacks, then they're just not going to have enough experience. But you get to sit like Jordan Love, like Aaron Rodgers.
You get to sit behind the MVP,
and you get to sit behind a really good Hall of Fame quarterback.
ESPN did bring up Ty Simpson from Alabama potentially going to the Rams, but they favored Lemon a lot more just because it's a local guy, someone that could stay out there. But I will say Alabama.
And he would make that receiving core dynamic when you think about Devontae and Puka already being there.
They also, I think it's, I forget who it is, Byron Young. He's a 2027 free agent. Yeah. I don't know if that could help out the Panthers down the road.
That is true. Edge rusher. Local guy as well from down in South Carolina, too. Yeah. Played at Tennessee eventually, and he's been a special guy when you think about him and Jared Verse there on those bookends, too.
Can't pay them both.
Yeah. You got to pay one. And
they are both really good.
And as we just saw, Mr. Will Anderson reset the market for that position as well.
$50 million.
So, I mean, 134 guaranteed and 150 over only 3 years. So, that's the market's the market.
What's the Casey?
Well, they're showing Ty Simpson on the camera, but they've not said
it's not in yet.
They say the pick is in, but they're currently on a commercial break promoting the NBA playoffs.
See, that's one thing we're not doing here, folks. Yeah. We are live without a commercial break until the Panthers make. Yeah, no, not here.
But the draft is moving quick. We're only a few. We're only a few picks away.
Actually, I was thinking that earlier. I was like, I figured, we would be pushing 10:30 by the time we made it to right here.
We're only a few picks away, and I think you think about the Rams too, a team that we saw twice last year at a front row seat. I think it's one of those teams where you look at the Panthers. If you had maybe a bit of an extra pass rush, how does that wild card game go? When you think about the 2-minute drive, and you think for the Rams case too, if they end up going Ty Simpson, then Matt Stafford, how many years left does he have realistically? Almost 40. But he got a young receiving core. Mekhi Lemon could be an interesting pick, but I think as we've seen the Rams over the last few years, they don't put a lot of stock in the draft picks. They want to build through free agency. Yeah. That's what got them a Super Bowl. So I think we'll see what direction they end up going when the pick officially comes in. But Ty Simpson, it would certainly shake up the first round if this ends up being the pick officially.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me that they draft a guy and just tuck him away for a couple years if that's what you're going to see from Matthew Stafford. But you do have Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams still there. Great offensive football team. Can you add a guy in the slot to supplement that receiving core like Mekhi Lemon? That would be incredible for a hometown guy, right down the road, right there at SC, to come in and acclimate to that football team really, really quickly with, McVay, who's just proven to be a wizard at offense. That's the right word for it.
How much time they got left?
Only a couple seconds. It looks like they're
break.
Back in the coverage now, so we'll see how things things shake out.
So we got 7 picks as we wait for this potential bombshell here until we get to 19 for the Panthers. I mean, I know we had talked a little bit earlier about, the what you're saying, like 12, 14 is where we start to see this kind of the move starting to happen. The wheels really starting to click into place about who are the Panthers going to be picking. I mean, you gave me a list of some big names here. Are there anyone on here that you might be feeling? Monroe Freeling.
Yep, still available.
Blake Miller, Omar Cooper Jr., Dylan Thieneman. I know his name has come up a lot in mock drafts.
I feel like that's been Gabe's
if
boy.
he's
anytime
been
we talk.
after I watched him at the combine,
insane,
and then I cut the tape on. That guy is special, and just you think about it, a guy that can be that true center fielder for this defense that we haven't seen in quite some time. Because you think about Lathan Ransom, Trevon Merrick, both solid players, especially Merrick, a guy that came in and was a big spark, but they're honestly a bit of the same player.
They're hybrids. They're
hybrids that play in the box. They're really good at run support. They're pretty much, you can kind of say they're undersized linebackers in a way. Mm-hmm. With the position that they play, that big nickel, so to speak, I think having a guy like Thieneman to be that true center fielder, create some turnovers, create a spark for this defense, I think he could be a solid pick. But also even getting, a true nickel corner as well. Shaw Smith-Wade, kind of been an up and down run for him over the last couple of years. They did have Corey Thornton as well, who went down with an injury, put together some solid games. But I think having a guy like Thieneman that can be all over the field, be that ball hawk safety that they need, he would be a solid pick if he is still there. And I think, that's somebody that Dan Morgan is certainly looking at and hopefully zeroing in on when that time comes around.
His
too.
40 and his vertical were nuts.
Yeah,
I think he had the fourth overall 40,
Yeah.
second highest vertical in shorts.
Special talent.
Yeah,
Special talent.
You
no
need
doubt.
that. I think Dan addressed the front of the defense.
Yeah.
The second level with Devin Lloyd as well.
Now you
Jalen Phillips up front.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at that back end. Let's
for
get
sure.
a ball hawking safety on the back end. Turnovers are the key. That turnover margin is one thing defensive coaches, head coaches preach all the time. And when you look at these highlights from Thieneman, he's just around the ball. Tip balls, overthrows, that guy is coming down with it.
Yeah.
He has a feel for it. He has an eye for it.
Yeah.
And you go and look at what the Philadelphia Eagles did a few years ago with Cooper DeJean and those guys. They changed that football team en route to a Super Bowl championship, and I think the Panthers could be on to something. I think if he's still there, it's a tough decision between those wide receivers that we named, but this safety right here I think is special.
All right, Ty Simpson, quarterback from Alabama, is headed to the Los Angeles
This is probably
Rams.
the biggest shocker so far in this draft. Ty Simpson going this early. I know the quarterback had been in talks for the Rams. Thought it would probably be something that they would address today too. Nick Saban on the broadcast. Definitely very happy to see a former Crimson Tide go this early, especially a quarterback too. Al, your initial reaction now that the pick is officially in, Ty Simpson, the heir apparent QB of the future out there for the Rams and Sean McVay.
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm shocked because I thought he was going to go in the first round, but not to the Rams, not this early. The fact that he got an invite, right? This guy was like a second-round grade, got an invite, and you thought maybe he was going to be the green room guy that the camera stayed on, and then right before this pick, he's back there laughing and hanging out. He's feeling good. There's no pressure. Something was in his ear, and obviously in the NFL's ear, the staff that sends out the invites for these players to be on site, and Ty Simpson's there for a reason because he is now a Los Angeles Ram.
Insane.
And
I was going to say we got another YouTube comment. I'll read two off here. Get ready, pass the popcorn. Ty Simpson to the Rams. Does that mean Ravens take Reuben Bain to Baltimore? Ray Lewis would love that.
Yeah,
But
I'm
now
sure he would.
I will say second comment. Nope, Ravens going with Penn State guard. And you guys got to help me here. Loan?
Olave Vega?
Yeah.
Ioane, yes.
Okay, yes. Maybe just a typo here.
They're going O-line, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Lamar Jackson's getting a little older.
Yeah.
He's not the same run away from everybody
That
guy.
is true,
He's been banged up the last couple of years.
Yeah.
You've had guys on that O-line retire, so it feels like get back to Ravens football, and that's getting the big guys up front.
That's what you need. I mean, we've known that franchise for so long to be that kind of team, especially under John Harbaugh, and now just under a new regime. It's you definitely want to be able to get a little bit more protection for Lamar Jackson because, like you said, he's definitely not 2019 Lamar.
Right.
He's a far cry from what he was at first MVP time around. He's still in the pocket more, trying to show that he's still an elite passer as well, and you want to have somebody to protect him. So that pick is in. We'll see it here shortly as Ty Simpson continues to make his rounds there with his jersey after shaking Roger Goodell's hand. And we'll see what direction the Ravens go. A new era up there in Baltimore for them.
Talk about a cool draft day story. Lamar Jackson, his whole story on his NFL draft, just being, the last guy there waiting to get drafted. I always thought that was, when you go back and you watch that video and just see how just amazing he's been in the NFL and how many people he proved wrong. That's just I hope he really looks back on that moment and sees just how incredible he's come from there. So really cool story there.
Yeah, and the great Ozzie Newsome, man. Yeah. You talk about the Hall of Famers, the great players he's brought into that organization, believed in Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson bet on himself that he wasn't going to work out and do all the things that teams were asking him to do at the combine as a wide receiver. Yeah. I'm a quarterback.
I am a quarterback.
I'm going to play quarterback. I'm going to do it my way. I just have to find one person to believe that I can do it, and it was Ozzie Newsome.
And 2 MVPs later, he's showing he's still one of the best in the game, and definitely just a special talent that is, continued to evolve the game, because we've seen even over the years, just how much more the game is now catered to these mobile quarterbacks that are able to get out of the pocket. And he's certainly one that's setting an example, and just the talent there off the charts, and somebody that the Panthers will actually see this year. They're playing the entire AFC North. So you got obviously the Ravens, Steelers, Browns, and Bengals on the schedule. So that'll be somebody for them to have to worry about when that game comes around.
So you're telling me Myles Garrett somebody's going to have to block this dude?
Somebody will have to be blocking Myles Garrett. You got the entire AFC North and NFC North on the schedule this year. And you got to play 3 first-place teams. That's the price you pay when you win your division. You got to play the Seahawks, Broncos, and the Eagles, I believe, this year. All division winners from last year, AFC North and NFC North. So a tough road ahead. We'll get there when we get there, when the schedule officially comes out.
Yeah,
but
one thing at a time.
Yeah, those are the opponents. But for now, it's just adding, talent to the team. And just a few picks away, the Ravens pick is in. Right after them, another NFC South squad, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It'll be interesting to see what direction they go. Just Todd Bowles going to be back for another year. You still got Baker Mayfield, but Mike Evans, no longer a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Much, I'm sure a lot of people around the NFC South, especially in Carolina, celebrating that move for sure. But be interesting to see another NFC South team and what direction they go, because like we talked about earlier, I think it's still a division that's going to be up for grabs, not only this year, but in the coming years too.
You talk about the schedule, though. I wish that was coming out sooner. You know how hard it is to plan a vacation, trying to get one in before the season starts, before our show starts.
When's the bye week? When is
the preseason game?
Yeah, when
just
the preseason
tell
games?
me when training camp starts, because I'm out of here before training camp starts.
A little bit earlier this year. Panthers are in the Hall of Fame game, so that's.
So I know they play on the 6th, August 6th.
They'll likely be reporting about a week earlier. So. But still a good opportunity.
That's getting in the way of some plans I was trying to have.
That's what I'm saying. I might miss a pregame game, but I've got it.
We all can.
My toes have to touch the sand. I have to get
Kasey,
there.
I'll fill in for you.
And the Ravens pick
fine.
is officially in, going with a safe pick, addressing the offensive line, going with an interior alignment at the guard spot, Oliva Vega Ioane from Penn State, now going to Baltimore to be a Raven. And certainly a very exciting reaction there as he's with his family in Tacoma, Washington now. Going 14th overall. Yeah, going 14th overall to the Baltimore Ravens. And, a new guy up front to protect Lamar Jackson. Certainly something that they needed, like we just mentioned, for sure.
Yeah, it's another big, physical, rugged guy. And the style of play you get from the Baltimore Ravens, they want to run the ball. They want to control the line of scrimmage, and you just can't have enough of those big guys that are willing to get in there and get dirty with some of these elite defensive linemen that are around the NFL. And just like we talked, Myles Garrett, that are in their own division with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns. So this feels like as safe, like you said, Gabe, of a pick that you can get from the Baltimore Ravens. Yeah, nothing to look at, nothing to be surprised about on this one.
Absolutely. And I think just, you look at, even the draft moving along, Tampa Bay, their pick is already in. So we got another.
I'm hitting this button
another
really quick
NFC
now.
South team coming
Folks,
in, but
I think we're probably 35 minutes away from
we're
potential
pretty,
Panthers pick.
We are pretty close. It is coming soon as we just passed 9:30 here in the Blue Room, and about to hit the halfway point of the first round. We're at 15, and then the Jets back on the clock at 16. Then we move into the back half with Detroit at 17. But interesting to see what direction Tampa Bay goes when you think about just the loss of some veteran guys, Levante David retiring. So maybe you want to get somebody on the defensive side of the ball to kind of be that next leader and next guy to really galvanize that unit. Even look at the offense, potentially adding another weapon. We'll see what direction they go. Obviously, a team that has been, for a few years, the standard in the division, won 4 division titles in a row, and had some good battles with the Panthers last year. So they're certainly looking to be in the thick of things and be in the mix. But this could be, I don't know if we probably see another offensive lineman here. I think we could see a run on those. But I know they got Tristan Wirfs and a lot of guys. Maybe not the biggest need up front for them, but 3 offensive linemen here, early in the, 10 to 15 range here in the draft. But we'll see how things shake out.
I think they are going to be thinking about the loss of Mike Evans with this pick.
Sure.
So I think they're going to go offense. I wouldn't be shocked if it's Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end. That is not quite Mike Evans. He's not a receiver, but he's not the traditional tight end either. And I think that athleticism and his ability to create some mismatches, you see him here on some screen plays. He'll get in there. He'll try to block. He's a willing guy, maybe not the most stout tight end in the draft here. Not an inline tight end, but certainly if you're thinking another big body, another weapon for Baker Mayfield, a guy you can add and plug in to this offense, that might be your weapon there for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll honestly be sad to see him go because my eyes are locked in on difference makers right away for the Carolina Panthers. And even with the wide receivers that are still on the board, I think this guy could be the biggest difference maker out of that lot.
What about Kasey? Is it Concepcion?
Yeah, Concepcion. Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
He's really dynamic. And I think Gabe's talked about his ability to return kicks, help in that respect. But a guy you can throw in the slot, you can throw some of the smoke screens, you can run the jet sweeps with Concepcion, and he can really add to those big body kind of possession receivers that can control the outside, and T-Mac and Jalen Coker. So I like Kasey at that spot. Omar Cooper Jr. really had a great season this past year with Fernando Mendoza at Indiana as well.
No, he showed some great, yard after catch ability as well. To seeing, some of his tape right here. That's one thing that Dan has talked about. You got T-Mac, you got Jalen. You want to have a guy that can, be a guy to really, take the top off the defense. Be that speedster down the field. We thought it could potentially be a guy like Jimmy Horn Jr. Took a little bit of time for him to come along. He was used in certain spurts throughout the season, but I think you want a guy that's going to be a little bit more consistent in that regard, that can truly be a difference maker, because you mentioned those big body possession type guys, but you want to have a guy that can, run that post, or he can take a slant, just 8 yards and turn it into 60 yards like we saw guys like Odell do back in the day. So I think, a lot of people, they're going to have their opinions if they go receiver for the 3rd year in a row, but I still think there's a lot of dynamic guys that they could go with at that spot there in 19, just a few picks away now.
Well, as we're talking about some of the first-round draft picks, Austin, I think we got video of all these guys. We've talked about T-Mac and Leggett and showed some of those, and we've talked about Bryce. I want to talk about the guys that we've picked in the first round since 2020 and just kind of look at what they've done since they've become a Carolina Panther while we're waiting on them to pick. So 2020 we had, or I guess starting with Brown.
Yeah, Derek Brown.
Horn. Then we have Bryce, Leggett, T-Mac. Let's start with Derek Brown. I mean, what can't you say about this guy and everything that he's done for the Panthers?
No, he's been incredible. I mean, just even, coming off the injury last year, he was double teamed on 64% of the snaps. I mean, just having that much attention, but still being productive, over 70 tackles, career high in 5 sacks, something that we talked about before the show, just him growing as a pass rusher in that regard, because we know what he can do against the run, but he really unlocked a different element of his game as he returned to form. Obviously it was tough for him to miss the entire 2024 season. Last year, it felt like getting a first-round pick back. He's certainly been special in proving he's one of the best in the league at his position.
Yeah, you're an offensive lineman. You're 330, but he's going to toss you around like a kid. It doesn't matter to him. You know it's coming, but you're going to be on a highlight every single week. Derek Brown is going to hip toss another grown man that's 330 pounds. So it's amazing to see every time I turn on the tape.
Yeah, such a great pickup for the Carolina Panthers, and a great leader too.
Yeah,
you could tell that defense needed someone to step up and be a leader, especially after 2024. So having him back last season was really big for them. And then another leader in the backfield. I mean, you have Horn, who obviously is a guy who you need him to be on his A game every single game. And he wasn't always this past season. But he was someone who has just made such a huge impact for this defense.
And here's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pick, our next NFC South squad, and
Ruben
it is
Bain
Ruben
Jr.
Bain. So going from Miami up the road to Tampa, going to be on that edge, a guy that's going to be attacking this Panthers offensive line.
There you go.
Al, your initial thoughts on this pick? Everybody's talked about the short arms and everything, but this guy, we know he can produce at a very high level. He's going to be a guy that, is going to make, probably an instant impact for this team and this defense.
Yeah, you know what? He had the same short arms at Miami.
Yeah.
These are the same guys.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
knock it off with the short arms. I was blessed with long arms.
Yeah.
They certainly help keep those big guys away from your frame, away from your body, but they're not a detriment to his game because he is just flat out a football player. And sometimes you can't measure a football player. They are just football players, meaning this guy is going to put his hands in the dirt. I know his coach, Jason Taylor, Hall of Famer. I played with JT down in Miami. He knows what he's doing. He's been coached. He's been prepared. And if he was good enough for Jason Taylor and he's been coached by that guy, trust me when I tell you he is going to be a terror for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Another guy you got to face this year for the Carolina Panthers. He is going to play that back in his head for the remainder of his career, that these teams passed on him because of his arm length, something so silly.
Yeah, even seeing, just some of the tape they're rolling on the broadcast, you see the motor, you see the bend and how he's able to get around tackles and get to the quarterback. Certainly a guy that has, just a lot of the skills and traits that you want out of a guy at that position. And, he's going to be a difference maker. And like you said, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder because he probably feels that he should have been top 10 or higher. And now, knowing that he's going to be able to still be in the state of Florida, going a little bit lower in the draft than he probably would have thought, then I think he's going to be looking to make an impact. And we'll see just how, those matchups whenever he does, when the Panthers do have to see him twice a year this upcoming season and in the years to come.
Just look at the body language.
Yeah.
No smile.
Yeah.
Took a look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers logo. This kid is locked in today.
He's ready to work.
He's ready to make everybody that picked before him pay right now. He's already just locked in and laser focused.
And I'm sure, like we saw Amon-Ra St. Brown being able to list all the receivers that went before him in that draft.
Oh, it's a
I'm
chip
sure
on
he's
the
definitely going to remember all 14 names that went ahead of him, and we'll see just what kind of career that he's gonna be able to put together.
So we have an insider, and by insider I mean a YouTube commenter. So I appreciate the shout out for our Kasey Clark Jr. here. Sadiq to the Jets, potentially coming up.
Okay,
we might see that unfold here.
Well, their pick is in.
We'll
so.
see if that's official. That would be a weapon for them. I think the question now in New York is just who's gonna throw the ball to him.
Who's getting it?
I mean that's the thing. Like you got a special talent, but who's going to be getting the ball to him? I think that's a guy that can, potentially make a difference for a team, but I think there's still so many other needs that they have. They're still a ways away, but if he ends up being the pick, I think he could help them get in the right direction and, just bring an element to an offense that's still trying to grow, trying to evolve any way that they can.
See, Lemon's one of the best available there. So, yeah, then Freeling, we haven't brought him up in a hot second. So.
And after this pick, we'll just be a couple weeks picks away. You got the Detroit Lions coming up. Obviously,
offensive line.
Yeah, I think, you definitely think about the O-line there. And then, I think the main thing, too, what does Minnesota do? Is that the Eneman? Do they get him one pick before the Panthers? Or do we see the Panthers try to jump him? We've seen some teams already go a pick ahead to make sure they got their guy, much like the Dallas Cowboys did to get Caleb down. So I think you even got Jermon McCoy, they're listing the cornerback from Tennessee. Is he a guy that you maybe try to get in the slot or in some different packages? I think we're getting closer now, but we're starting to get an idea of where the Panthers could go. But yeah, as we get closer to the pick, I think the tension starts to build a little bit. But
I can feel it.
Yeah, but I think you mentioned obviously Sadiq potentially going here to the Jets, and then the Lions, definitely a tough year for them, and now it'll be interesting to see just that backfield too. David Montgomery now down in Houston, so you don't have that 1-2 punch, the Sonic and Knuckles that you had with him and Jahmyr Gibbs. So
great reference.
I think we'll see if how Gibbs is going to be now as that featured back, because now you don't have somebody to kind of take the load off of him where you had that dynamic 1-2 punch. A guy that's more powerful in Montgomery. What are his numbers going to look like? How is that gonna, just play to him? And
tear.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we even saw last year, Dan Campbell take over the play calling. So there was a lot of, dismay on that side of the ball after a tough year. And the Jets pick is now in.
Our YouTube commenter. He wasn't
right?
inside. Kenyon Sadiq, tight
Sadiq.
end, Oregon.
Oregon tight end off the board. They're celebrating. They're celebrating at home, and our first tight end off the board in this year's drafts. And now we'll a lot of guys that a guy that the Panthers were linked to if they were going to go that direction, and now just a few picks ahead of them, Kenyon Sadiq, a New York Jet for the coming years. And a guy that we've talked about, just being able to be a big slot but still play close to the line of scrimmage as well. And Still got to figure out the quarterback position, though. But you do have a dynamic playmaker, but it's just a matter of who's going to be throwing him the ball.
Yeah, they have, I think, weapons on that Jets offense, but you just got to be able to get everybody moving in the right direction.
For sure.
And, of course, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have anything in the NFL, and the Jets have been in that position for quite some time. So who's going to be the guy? Are you going to be able to get the ball to these talented playmakers? Garrett Wilson's still there, another Ohio State wide receiver as we watch all those guys fly off the board. But can you get them moving in the right direction? Sadiq is really intriguing. It's going to be a matchup nightmare for a lot of guys for this athleticism that he brings to the table.
I really do hope they get him a quarterback, though, because it will be cool just to see what he does for their offense, and obviously won't be good for other teams. But some of these guys, it's like how good they were in college. I don't care who they play for. I want to see them like ball out in the NFL and see what they can do.
Different animal.
And if it can translate, because some guys it just doesn't translate over. They hit some kind of wall, and so some of these guys like him, I think it'll translate based off all the tape that we've watched of him and how much we've talked about him on our show and Mocking Monday. So it'll be exciting to see what he is able to do if they can get him someone to give him the ball.
Absolutely.
All right, Lions pick is in.
Lions pick is in.
Can I take a guess?
Is this Monroe Freeling?
I think they go O-line.
O-line?
O-line?
That's what a lot of people think, yeah.
Yeah.
What about, let me get the right video queued up here. What about Blake Miller?
Hey, the guy out of Clemson. We've talked a lot about him on Mocking Mondays as well, possibly being linked to the Panthers. We know they have not drafted a Clemson player in their franchise history, despite having the strong ties to the school. So, that's a guy that obviously we've seen on tape, can really just move people and be a mammoth up front. But, we'll see if that ends up being the pick here as Detroit looks to continue to build that O-line. You got Penei Sewell, but you still want to be able to get a lot of other guys up there to be able to protect Jared Goff and clear those running lanes for Jahmyr Gibbs and company, too.
And Sewell has some versatility because he can play right or left tackle.
He can,
We watched him.
And he can go catch passes if he needs to, too. I mean, that guy, he is an athlete with two Fs.
That's right.
So he's a special talent, no doubt.
I spoke to a class Monday at Clemson. I did a Zoom with it was all girls, and they're all wanting to be sports reporters one day. And it was like, I don't know exactly. I guess it's like a club that they're a part of. But one of the questions they asked me when I was kind of done giving my presentation, do you think the Panthers are going to draft a Clemson player this time around? And I was like, I don't know. Maybe if we, get a free agent or something. I was like, at least in the first couple rounds, I don't think so. But they were really wanting that, and I was like, well, I hope so. And then you guys can, come to the games and cheer them on and all those things, because we want everybody, like, we want to fill, or I say we, the Panthers want to fill Bank of America Stadium, and they did towards the end of the season. It was looking like a Panthers home game, because some of those games that, especially when the Chiefs come into town, it's looking half and half.
The Bills,
the Bills game, that was tough.
Cowboys is another one.
Yeah,
there's been a number of games.
Those are historic fan bases, though.
Like
you can't.
when the Steelers come to town, Steelers, Niners, Cowboys, whenever they travel, they always will travel well. The Packers the same way. We saw that Christmas Eve a few years ago in Bryce's rookie year. That's always what you're going to get out of those teams, and that's going to be interesting to see too. And I think the Lions, you look at a team that came so close to Super Bowl a few years ago. If they just would have kept running the ball, maybe, I think in the second half against the Niners in that game, probably a different story there. And then the next year they had the 15-win season. They followed to Washington as they made their run, and now last year, just kind of an up and down year. So we'll see, what the future holds for them. Another NFC North team that Carolina will see this year. Actually, these next two teams with Detroit and Minnesota. So these picks are going to be very crucial when you think about what direction these two teams go, because the Panthers are going to have to see both of them on the schedule coming up this fall as well.
I mean, you lose if you're Dan Campbell, you lose both coordinators. It takes its toll. Just go back to the Eagles a couple years ago. When they lose both of their coordinators, they take a little dip, but they bounce back.
For sure.
Hopefully, Dan Campbell and the culture that he established,
because he's built a strong one there,
that they can bounce back right away.
Yeah, I mean, biting off kneecaps and all.
I mean, he said, like, I think it was that 15-win season. He was like, you really only get a one realistic shot.
It's tough to get back. I mean, Al, as you know, you made it there, and it was a tough ending, and had NFC Championship a couple years later. It's hard to get to that point for any team.
Yeah,
for sure.
Steve breaks his ankle opening day against the Green Bay Packers, against one of our former teammates. Horse collars him. He breaks his ankle, and that season is shot. Then he comes back in 2005. He wins the Triple Crown. But we lose every running back. We go up to Seattle and just get smoked in the NFC Championship. Made a good run, though. Made a good run to the NFC Championship, but that's it. Yeah. 2 playoff runs in 10 years that I played in the NFL, 03 and 05. And you think you're going to keep getting back, but it's fleeting.
It just shows how hard. I mean, even when you look at, the Panthers, coming off last season, are they going to be able to replicate and build off what they did? That's the thing. It's a clean slate every year. Yes, they've made some good additions and hopefully make another one here coming up in a couple of picks. But it's hard. I mean, because every team is, making additions and subtractions as well, and they're all going to look completely different from year to year. And Roger Goodell at the podium now. We'll know the Lions pick here officially coming up in just a little bit, what direction they go up there in the Motor City. I'm sure Joey Ellis, a member of the CSL team, is very locked in right now to see what direction they go, his squad, as he is from the great state of Michigan as well.
Talking about how hard it is to, make it to the playoffs and things like that. My friend, Maddie Glab, she is the team reporter for the Bills. That's kind of what's keeping, not what's keeping her at the Bills, but she, one day, wants to start a family, all these things, but she's like, I just can't leave this job yet. I can't do it yet.
You're
like,
close.
we're so close. I've got to stay. And she loves the job. She doesn't want to, but, you just always think about those things. And so she's kind of like, not like the players, but it's like you can't, it's hard to let go.
It is.
Football, I feel like, especially when you work for a team, the highs, they're so high.
And you ride every moment,
too. And it's hard to leave, but it's exciting. I think that's why people love sports.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Blake Miller.
All
right,
from Clemson.
Officially
off
the
the board.
Vikings?
No, he's going to the Detroit Lions.
I'm losing track. I'm trying to keep track of all the picks here.
Blake
You guys
Miller.
are
okay.
First Clemson Tiger off the
line,
board. Yeah, they needed an O-lineman. And, first Clemson Tiger off the board. They got a couple of guys that are expected to be first-round picks. You look at Peter Woods, the defensive tackle as well, that's put together a solid career, probably later there in the first round. But Blake Miller, you watch the tape, you see a big guy that has a lot of size and, can move people out there on the offensive line, which is what you want to see. And Lions definitely addressing a big need there up front on the O-line for sure.
Yeah, so I'm going to go opposite on the arm length thing. You look at Miller, he's scratching his knees while he's in his stance because those arms are long. You talk about punch, physicality, explosion off the line of scrimmage, and he is the prototype of what an offensive lineman should look like, 6'6" and 317 pounds. With those long arms right there that you see, man, that guy's going to be able to move some people and do a good job. And you knew Detroit needed to upgrade that offensive line and to protect Jared Goff, and there you have it.
All right, we are now 2 picks away.
Crazy.
Vikings pick is in.
This is the one.
This is it.
So will they take the Inman?
We might hit our Panthers pick just in time for the top of Queen City News at 10.
We just might.
Oh, my God.
Might. The Vikings pick is in. Do they go for their replacement to Harrison Smith? Do they snatch Dylan Thieneman a pick before the Panthers? Or
it's a big prediction.
Well, we shall see. And then
Thieneman's gone. It's wide receiver.
It's wide receiver. So is Mekhi Lemon a Carolina Panther potentially?
Ooh, I think if it's Lemon and Kasey on the board, you go with Mekhi Lemon because this guy is. He just doesn't want to go down. He can't tackle him.
And a lot of people are talking about him being wide receiver 1 in this year's class. And he's still on the board as we get close to pick number 20 here.
Being compared to
Caleb Banks, D-tackle from Florida.
Caleb Banks. Okay. Caleb Banks going to the Vikings. So now the Panthers are in a good spot. You got Thieneman and you got Mekhi Lemon there on the board. I thought for sure with Harrison Smith gone from Minnesota that Thieneman would be the guy to be, that replacement for him is that free safety. So now, Dan Morgan, he's in a good spot. It's he's probably making that call right now as we speak at Bank of America Stadium.
Is this a harder decision now? Does that make it harder for Dan because you have so many good players right there? Yeah. I think that makes you have to go on the scouting, the preparation, and trust. Everything that you've put together leading to this, you have to trust the work that you've put in for maybe a year leading back to the last draft that you've done, the packets that you have on these guys, because this is a difficult decision.
Well, the Panthers pick is in.
What?
Dan Morgan was quick on that.
Wait, this is the new dramatic Panthers pick.
There you go. The Panthers pick is in, folks.
It's in. We're here. All right, this is very dramatic. Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
Panthers at 19th overall. The pick is in for the black and blue. Dan Morgan about to change a young man's life forever with this draft pick, and we'll see just exactly who it is, who's going to be the latest first-round pick for the Carolina Panthers at 19th overall. joining the reigning NFC South champions. There's a lot of directions
Cali
they could go here.
connection, man. Just keep bringing in the West Coast guys, Dan. Just bring in the West Coast receivers.
This is definitely going to be interesting to see just what direction they go with a number of guys that they have been linked to heading into the draft still on the board. Caleb Banks going to Minnesota, certainly a shocker for sure. I thought there was a number of directions that they could go, and it seemed like the Thieneman was going to be, their pick there, and the Panthers would have had to make a trade up if they wanted to get him. But now, you can stand pat at 19, and they're just ahead of Dallas and the host Detroit Steelers. So the ESPN broadcast currently in the commercial, so we have to wait a little bit for the pick to come in. Yes, they are in the commercial, but
we'll have to play the sound again.
Yes, we'll have to play the sound and the open and everything again. But still, the pick is in. It's Al. Deep down. Who you got?
I think this is
it's got to be
third-year wide receiver.
Third-year wide
I think
receiver.
you absolutely go with wide receiver.
Oh, we got a special guest.
We have a very special guest.
You guys spoil it for everybody.
We will see just how things shake out. 19th overall, the Panthers in an interesting spot compared to years past. Last year picked 8th overall. Year before, traded back into the first round to pick 32nd. Now picking at 19th overall. Dan Morgan and company. We'll see just who they had the conviction on for so long.
Or wide receiver, I think the positions of least important are the ones that are further away from the ball, if that makes sense to you guys.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, nobody's further away from the ball than a middle field safety.
Yeah.
He is an incredible player, and I would not be disappointed. But Mekhi Lemon, Cooper, Concepcion, I mean, my goodness.
There's a number of directions they could go. There's still a lot of talent on the board, and definitely a lot of guys that can make an immediate impact.
Shots would be freely. It would be offensive line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I think there's still a lot of guys with value. Like even look at Lomu from Utah as well that played with Fano. He's a guy that I think they could potentially address tomorrow and day 2. I think at least for day 1, you would have wanted to get Fano if he still would have been there. But now you got to look at, just the main needs right now. Because I think Rasheed Walker, if he ends up being your day 1 starter with Ike Ekwonu's injury, you can get a solid season out of him. A lot of people said he was one of the top tackles, if not the top tackle in free agency this year. You get him at a good value at about $4 million a year. So I think now it's, getting because they've even talked about it. Dave Canales and Dan Morgan talked about we want to draft impact players that can make a difference. I know, Dan Morgan kind of, walked back the whole draft, not drafting for depth, which you still want to have some. But I think now, first round, you want to get somebody to make an immediate impact. And I think that's the enemy. But it could be Lemon as well because you have a slot guy that can be dynamic with the ball in his hands. I think there's really
my brain is racing now because I'm thinking about Hakeem Messador and adding him in there with Jalen Phillips. I know you drafted the 2 young guys last year. But if the Giants have made a point, you keep drafting those edge rushers. You keep
have a solid rotation. I mean, similar to how you guys did when you played. I mean, you had
just like the Giants did in their Super Bowl runs. They had a deep defensive line.
No, that's what you want to be able to have. Guys that can get after the QB, and the pick has been in. ESPN back on the broadcast, so we should be learning that pick shortly on who is going to be the newest Carolina Panther. And going to do the welcome walk and everything on Friday. Kasey Funderburg, you will be out there for that.
Very exciting.
To see them banging the keep pounding drum and get their jersey, press conference, the whole 9 yards. Yeah. Always a special day that we've been able to have over the years. And we'll find out here shortly who that guy is going to be coming to Charlotte here tomorrow.
Now we're just 2 minutes away from Queen City News at 10. And we'll be hitting at the top of the show with some breaking news here. This is very exciting.
Here we go. Roger Goodell at the stage right now. We are about to learn the newest Carolina Panther with the 19th overall pick, and it is
Monroe Freeling. OT from Georgia.
Monroe Freeling is the newest Carolina Panther offensive tackle out of Georgia. Al, your first reaction?
I'm shocked, but I said that last year about Teteroa McMillan. This is a guy that I thought was going to go a lot earlier in the draft, so that's a good sign that he kind of fell into the lap of Dan Morgan, and it's about value, right? We talked about Ike Ekwonu and the injury. When is he going to be better? Rasheed Walker talked about that, but also the big guy, the veteran. Timo is getting up there in age, and when you start to prepare to transition away from one of the most consistent players in Panthers history. Certainly, I think the best right tackle that's been in this organization. So, man, what an incredible pick. I think this is shocking because of all the skill position guys that were still on the board, but certainly a need for the Panthers.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw his name pop up at the bottom where they're saying, like, here's the best available. And we've talked about how, Dan Morgan have said, we're going to take the best guy who we see fit. But I'm a little shocked that they went offensive line. I know we talked about it just because of all the movement. We talked about at the beginning of the show, not knowing people like Icky, what's going to happen with him, Timo just getting up there in age. But I am shocked because it's almost like they're building depth, and they've said they're not looking to build depth. To me, that's a depth choice.
Absolutely. I mean, because you look at, Rasheed Walker, you gave him obviously a value 1-year deal. You're counting on him to potentially be that day one starter. You talk about Taylor Moden, probably his last contract in Carolina after getting that extension, and you get some depth here. And the Philadelphia Eagles now 1 pick behind them. Their pick is now in as well. We'll see what direction they go here at 20th overall. They get Mekhi Lemon 1 pick later. So, and guess who plays each other later this year?
2 hours in this room will do that.
The Eagles and the Panthers. So,
and we already know they're going to move away from A.J. Brown, right? Is that been determined post June 1st?
Pretty much, yeah.
He's going to go to the Patriots.
So now J.C. Horn and Mike Jackson. This is another guy they'll have to see. Just your thoughts on the guy that we thought would be coming to Carolina, now going 1 pick later.
I think this was the most dynamic, NFL-ready, make-a-difference guy left on the board. And maybe, the trust that was built with that wide receiver core and bringing in a guy like Mechie is the difference that you feel like you didn't need to go out and get another wide receiver. But, yeah, it makes it even more shocking when you see Lemon go the pick afterwards that Dan Morgan, Dave Canales took an offensive lineman.
I will say the depth in the offensive line group was very, very important last season. We saw how important that was. But even Mechie coming in, like, that's exciting. Obviously, him and Bryce have a connection. They played really, really well together in 2022. But he hasn't proven himself enough in the NFL to be that guy at the wide receiver position. So and obviously Leggett had a tough year as well. So the fact that,
Kasey, sorry to interrupt. We're actually going to, here in just about 30 seconds, we are going to check in with Brian Blakely, who they are just now teasing the pick. So I'm going to set us up, and we're going to do some TV streaming, so stand by. Stand by, guys. Brian, what a great way. What a nice play of words. The feeling over Freeling. Guys, we are streaming live here with Carolina Sports Live Plus. We just got through the 19th pick with Gabe McDonald, Kasey Funderburg, Al Wallace, and guys, I mean, what a pick.
Yeah, Monroe Freeling out of Georgia. Obviously, you look at, the depth on the offensive line there, wanting to build that up. And a guy that, a lot of people have talked about being able to come in and just, be a solid pass rush or solid guy to pass protect as well. But, you look at the run game, still a little bit of work there to improve, but a guy that I think can come in and be a solid depth piece for this team. But you look at some other needs, probably thought they would have gone a different route. I will admit I was initially shocked, but Dan Morgan and Dave Canales, they felt that they had conviction on this guy, and that's the route that they're going.
Yeah, build a sturdy foundation. That, for me, is the offense and defensive line. You address really both sides in free agency this year. Now you have a young guy that you can stick behind, either Taylor Moton or Ike Ekwonu Walker, who I think is probably going to take the lead with the injury there to Ike. So a good pick, solid pick for Dan Morgan.
Yeah, and even though Dan Morgan did talk about we're not specifically focusing on depth players, and while we, during the stream talked about this looks like a depth position, we saw how important that was for the offensive line last season and how guys being able to step up when their name was called was important. We could see that again this season. And I think just Bryce also feeling more comfortable, more protected in the pocket. It's going to give him more confidence because we also saw him take a couple steps forward last season. So maybe if he just has that one extra bit of protection, that one extra second in the pocket, that might give him what he needs just to make some big time plays, especially, you know, later in the game.
No, absolutely. That makes a big difference because you think about just the sack numbers have gone down substantially each and every year, which is a good thing as they've continued to build the O-line. Obviously, guys like Robert Hunt, Damian Lewis on the interior are making a big difference, and now you're able to get them a lot more protection. So now you still have some solid weapons out there, but you have T-Mac, you have Jalen Coker. Now you have a little bit more time to throw them the ball, and I think, you know, just that's going to be one thing to be able to kind of take this offense to new heights, especially Brad Idzik now running the show, calling the plays. Maybe he has some different new wrinkles as well. But, Al, is there maybe anybody still on the board that you thought could have potentially been the guy there at 19-4?
Yeah, about 2 minutes ago, I would have said Mekhi Lemon, but he went immediately to the Philadelphia Eagles. I still think Omar Cooper, those guys, Kasey, Concepcion are really intriguing players. Remember, guys, everybody who's listening and watching, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Dan's going to put together a full picture throughout the weekend.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it'll be exciting to see because it's shocked us already. So who knows who the next guys are going to be, but I think it's going to tell the story of what he's trying to do. And we'll get a chance to see him tomorrow as well for the welcome walk that they do at Bank of America Stadium.
Absolutely. Going to be a very special day in the Carolinas, especially for Monroe Freeling, officially being introduced tomorrow as the newest first round pick for the Carolina Panthers.
All right, Brian, guys, we're going to send it back to you. We are going to keep streaming here live on Queen City News Plus, Facebook Live, Queen City News YouTube page. Check us out. If you haven't downloaded Queen City News Plus, it is available on your Apple TV, Amazon Fire Stick, Samsung TV, Roku. Check us out. We are going to keep doing some more analysis, but Brian, for now, we are going to send it back to you. All right, folks, we are clear from the regular news, and now we can get back to the Monroe Freeling. I mean, huge.
Yeah, it's still Dylan Thieneman was right there.
Right
he
there.
He was right there, and I really thought with him once he passed Minnesota. In my head, I was like, because I knew Minnesota right before him. I'm like, okay, Harrison Smith is gone. They want to get somebody back there. Yeah. And, you know, you look at the free safety spot for the Panthers, haven't really had just a true, you know, ball hawk in quite a while. And they go a different direction. And, you know, it'll be interesting to see just how this O-line comes together with, you know, Monroe Freeling now being a part, coming from, obviously, a great program where he was developed down there in Athens, Georgia, too.
Well, just imagine if Bryce had a couple extra seconds in the pocket in that last game with the Rams.
No,
Obviously,
true.
the defensive play there at the end wasn't solid, but I feel like if he had just a little 1 or 2 more seconds there at the end, that would have made a difference. And maybe this is exactly what Freeling can come in and do. He can be that 1 second difference maker that Bryce needs and that some of these guys, you know, are going to need on the offensive side, or for T-Mac to be able to run his route and Bryce, you know, I don't know. I'm still shocked. I really did not think offensive line, even though we talked about offensive line a lot during Mock and Monday. I just
with how
I was like, it's not going to happen.
With how deep the tackle spot was, I thought it would be probably a day 2 thing. And now, Al, now that we know Monroe Freeling now 19th overall, got 2 picks coming up tomorrow in round 2 and 3, and then still have, I believe, 3 or 4 more on Saturday. Biggest need now that they've gone offensive tackle. What else do you think they need to address now, you know, just in the next couple of days?
Yeah, I still think you got to address the back end of that secondary, that defense. You did, you know, draft Lathan Ransom, but again, you have guys that are in that similar build and expertise of playing inside the box. But playmaker is always going to be right there for me. I still think this offense is void of a true playmaker. Now, when I say that, it doesn't mean that, you know, T-Mac is not a playmaker. Right. Certainly Jalen Coker, some of the explosive plays that we saw from him. But I look at the tight end position. I look at somebody in the slot that can really shake up defenses on crossing routes, on return routes, that can catch the ball and get upfield for Bryce Young, be that check down. This offense hasn't had that position in a long time. And then Brooks, is he going to be healthy?
True.
He could be that guy that's already on the roster that we're discounting that could be that matchup nightmare.
What do you think we could potentially – I know we haven't seen much of him, but everything, it seems to be going smooth with his rehab. What do you think we could potentially see out of him despite the small sample size? But we know what he was able to do in Texas. Does that translate over? I think what's kind of the outlook for him, now heading into what would be his first full season?
Yeah, before the injuries, he's in that same vein as a Jeremiah Love of, those guys that can catch the ball out of the backfield, that can line up in the slot like Christian McCaffrey, that can do so many things, that is big enough. If you've seen him in person and physical enough, I watched him stand next to Thomas Davis, who played linebacker, and I was that's a big dude.
Right, yeah.
And so if you can keep him healthy, if you can keep him on the field, I think the expectations are through the roof. And you do have the safety. I hate to call Chuba a safety net. He's just Mr. Consistent. So he's going to be your guy. But if you can sprinkle in a little Brooks in there as a change-up backs, maybe you can get your own version of Sonic and Knuckles here in the Carolina.
Yeah, possibly.
Be good.
I will say, guys, as we kind of hit last few minutes here, this has been a really delightful 2 hours with all of you. This is you all are such a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this. Al, I expect it out of you. But I mean, really, this has been incredible. Final thoughts, day one of the draft for the Panthers. Gabe.
I think for me, it's just still the initial surprise of the pick. I think it's kind of even is more carryover from last year. I mean, Al, I remember we were together on draft night. We thought for sure, I was thinking Jalen Walker. We all saw the reaction from him at his draft party in Salisbury. He was rather disappointed, goes to a division rival. Obviously, T-Mac is able to put together the season that he did. It remains to be seen, just what Monroe Freeling is going to translate to at the next level. A lot of people have talked about just, the run game, needing some improvement there as far as his blocking in that aspect. We'll see how quickly he's able to come along at the NFL level. But tackle was a need. I didn't think it was number one as far as, addressing that tonight. But there's still, that's why you got day 2 and day 3 picks. And that's normally where you find a lot of your difference makers. I mean, first round picks, it's still, kind of a mixed bag on what you're going to see out of them. You want to see immediate impact, but I think the roster is truly built. You find those diamonds in the rough in day 2 and day 3. Dan Morgan probably still going to be willing and dealing, making some calls, maybe tries to trade up in the second round if there's somebody still on the board that he really likes. But I think it's definitely, they didn't go too far out of the box with this pick, but I still think, there's still a lot of other needs, but it's still one that they were able to address, and they got a solid player for sure in my mind.
All right, Kasey. Final thoughts.
Well, obviously still a lot of things to address, like Gabe was saying, but one thing we saw last year was T-Mac gets drafted. We were all shocked, and we were like, is this going to be the guy? Like, we knew about him, not a lot, but it was just very surprising. This just happened again, that shock factor, someone that you're like, well, they'll be good. They will fill a need. We know that the Panthers have talked about this position. We didn't think it was going to happen, but okay, we'll see what happens. It kind of excites me because it wasn't someone people talked a lot about. It wasn't someone that we saw the Panthers picking, and look at how well that worked out for them last season. So I think it's exciting. And then also, too, we were talking about the first-round picks starting with Derek Brown up until now. And outside of Leggett kind of having a little bit up-and-down career so far, all of these first-round picks have done a pretty solid job here at Carolina. And I know it's not with the same staff, but they've all been able to find their place and really do such an incredible job as far as their position, as far as leadership. And if that continues, then we should see that out of this pick with the offensive line, seeing Freeling just kind of turn it into this leader on the offensive line and this guy that really shocks all of us in a good way. And then hopefully, again, like Gabe was saying, this will help the offense, help the run game, even though he struggles there a little bit. Just overall, just make everything a little bit cleaner, which is what they need going forward.
Well said. All right, Al.
Positions of importance. And we talked about it, further away from the ball, less important. Thieneman did not get drafted because of that. Look, there are two factors. Ike Kwanu with the injury, and also Taylor Moton, the age is starting to pile up, right? The miles, the tread on the tire may not be there. So you go out and you get a guy you believe that could be the future at left or right tackle. We'll see how that pans off. Remember, Jordan Gross in 02 started off as a right tackle and then moved over to left tackle in 03, that is, when we went on our Super Bowl run. So positions of importance. Dan Morgan is stacking up those big bodies on the offense and defensive line. That's where football is won. I'm shocked by the pick, but I'm intrigued. I want to see how it all turns out. I'm excited to see what Freeling can turn into with this offensive line.
I love it. Well, guys, thank you so much for everyone watching us. We have had Al Wallace, Kasey Funderburg, Gabe McDonald, and myself, Austin McCollum, here for the first ever, put it in the books, first ever record-setting historic moment for Carolina Sports Live Plus, the 2-hour, 14-minute live stream covering day one of the NFL draft. You guys got to get ready for the 11 p.m. Carolina Sports Live.
Yep.
Lots of insight. You too, Kasey. I know you're going to be getting ready for. I know tomorrow's going to be a huge day.
Yep, got
Very
the
exciting.
welcome
walk.
the welcome walk tomorrow around noon, I believe, is when it starts. So I'll be up. Normally, I haven't only been up for a couple hours at that point, so it'll be a little bit earlier.
A little extra
today.
coffee.
But then I get off work early. So
But guys, thank you for everyone watching us on YouTube, Facebook, Queen City News Plus. But by the way, if you have not downloaded Queen City News Plus, just search it on your Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, Apple TV, and Samsung TV. Can you tell that I say that a lot? It just kind of rolls off the tongue. Thank you. I appreciate that. But really, guys, we appreciate you. You have been watching a very special edition of Carolina Sports Live Plus. We'll see you at 11 o'clock right here on WJZY.
College, you can build your own business. In the NFL, you join one. In the NFL, you join one. So it's a shift from being an entrepreneur to being a unionized employee with a side hustle. But the biggest difference really comes down to three things: control, money, and stability. It's a real job, and you grow up real fast.
Reporting in Charlotte, Shakira Speaks, Queen City News.
Dry conditions are growing worse across North Carolina, with almost 40% of the state now classified in an extreme drought. It is forcing more communities to issue water restrictions. Fuquay-Varina officials are encouraging residents to cut their water usage starting tomorrow. Most of Wake County, including Raleigh, implemented restrictions earlier this week. Communities are limiting how often homeowners can water their yards. Homeowners say they're worried about the damage to their properties.
We've, happily, I guess, complied with the requirements and have turned off our irrigation system to just one day a week and, hoping for rain.
Raleigh water officials say their current water supply on Falls Lake is holding steady at 84%, but they say that level is likely to drop more until there is rain. Wildfires are raging in southern Georgia. A pair of large blazes have already scorched more than 34,000 acres with no more than a 15% containment. But the devastation is bringing communities together, gathering supplies to help people who have lost their homes.
We're all family. Maybe not through blood, but we all are family. And so anything we can do for each other, we give the shoes off our feet right now today. If somebody come up here and didn't have the size right, we would.
Officials say drought conditions in Georgia are a big contributor to the wildfires. To the weather now, as we take a live look over downtown Gastonia tonight. Wildfires in Georgia, they are having an impact in the Carolinas. Chief Meteorologist Tara Lane here, as we could feel the effects of the wildfire smoke kind of drift our way over the next couple of days.
Yeah, we started to talk about this yesterday with that decreasing quality of the air out there. And I was just showing people, of course, at the beginning of the newscast, how we do have that air quality alert for tomorrow, too. So it's those particulates and the smoke that's drifting our way from the south and west, and the buildup, that concentration of ground level ozone. That's
still hot and dry out tomorrow.
That's right, still hot and dry, so no major relief in sight, at least for tomorrow. Now, we do have some relief coming for Saturday. It's just not going to put much of a dent in the drought at all, because it's just not going to add up to much in terms of accumulation. Still dry tonight over in downtown Monroe and Union County. And again, talking about that air quality alert issued for tomorrow, we're going to be in the code orange range across Mecklenburg County, Cabarrus County, and other parts of the area too, and especially east of Charlotte and down toward upstate South Carolina. Slightly unhealthy, so that means for sensitive groups. That means if you have respiratory issues like asthma, emphysema, younger kids, older active adults, may not be so healthy to be outside breathing that poor air quality out there into tomorrow for a long period of time. So just keep that in mind and limit that time outdoors if you can. So this is for this evening. We had that going for parts of the area, and coming up tomorrow again for Mecklenburg and Cabarrus County. All of this after a pretty warm day and that stagnant air mass, a little mixing going on with the wind. And so that's going to be the case again for tomorrow. Not too breezy of a day. So we just have everything kind of settling in. 85 degrees, that top temperature earlier, 10 degrees above average, 52 was a low this morning. Cool start. It's about normal for this time of the year in terms of low temperatures. Do have some cooler spots out there like Salisbury down to 62. Of course, the mountains a little bit cooler, 56 up in Boone. We've got 72 in Shelby and mid upper 60s down to South Carolina. Still hanging on to that 72 there to the east in Richmond County, where it continues to be a dry scan all around, but that will be changing. On Saturday, we will actually see some green showing up on radar, and that's coming in from a weakening cold front here, by the way, and near that front, area of low pressure in the dry line back off to our west over parts of Kansas and especially Oklahoma. They're dealing with some violent and destructive tornadoes out there tonight. We are not going to see anywhere near that level of severe weather. We could hear some rumbles of thunder. We could have a few storms in the mix by the time the system works in on Saturday, but for the most part, just looking at some scattered showers and garden variety thunderstorms. Nothing too intense expected. Next 3 days, temperatures still heating up into the 80s through Saturday. Behind the front, we're just a bit cooler to wrap up the weekend on Sunday, upper 70s, so still on the slightly warmer side for this time of the year. Sunday is the drier half of the weekend too, in case you're thinking of what's the better day to do things outside. So let's check things out. Futurecast does show by 3 o'clock or so, a little bit later into the afternoon and evening, small chance of an isolated spot shower, mainly in the mountains or across the northern tier of the state as that moisture gradually increases. We'll get some dry time Saturday morning, so the best chance of seeing some of this rain will be after lunchtime, Saturday afternoon. Notice all the showers could be moderate, even heavy in spots, moving east across the area with the front into the afternoon. It's starting to clear out and taper off later in the evening, so we'll have some leftover clouds around for Sunday, but definitely a drier wrap to the weekend. We'll stick with that into Monday before some scattered shower chances return by the middle of next week, but still over the course of the next 7 days, we're just not looking at a ton of rain here, anywhere from 1/4 of an inch to about half or close to an inch. Some of those higher totals expected up toward the mountains and foothills. If you're headed out to Alabama this weekend, NASCAR racing action. We've got the Jack Links 500 firing up Sunday afternoon, and Talladega Super Speedway. It's going to be warm down there, 84 degrees, mostly cloudy, just a low chance of a shower or thunderstorm out there for Sunday. All right, so 7-day forecast shows for us starting Sunday. That's when we get a little bit cooler. We keep those highs in the mid to upper 70s next week.
Tara, thank you. A North Carolina teenager charged in an alleged synagogue attack plot, what her father believes was behind her behavior. And the Gastonia High School leaving a lasting impression on 3 students and their parents who work there. The message from those seniors ahead of their next steps in life. You're watching Queen City News, the most honored and the most local news in Charlotte. A North Carolina soldier is accused of using classified information on the U.S. raid to capture Venezuela's president to place bets on a prediction market. The U.S. hit Venezuela on January 3rd, taking Nicolas Maduro into custody. Officials say Master Sergeant Gannon Van Dyke, part of the Special Ops community based at Fort Bragg, was reportedly involved in the operation's planning. Justice Department prosecutors say his $33,000 in bets won him more than $400,000 in profit. Van Dyke is facing insider trading related charges. Israel and Lebanon are extending their ceasefire another 3 weeks to give them more time for peace talks. Representatives from both countries met at the White House to reach that agreement. President Trump says he played a big role in brokering the deal.
Yes, no firing, ceasefire, no more firing. Let's see. We hope that happens. It's not going to happen between them, but they do have Hezbollah to think about. And we're going to be working with Lebanon to get things straightened out in that country.
President Trump says Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Lebanese President Joseph Aoun are set to visit the White House in the future. North Carolina father says he is shocked over the allegations that his daughter is part of a plot to commit a mass shooting at a Texas synagogue. Court documents show 18-year-old Angelina Hicks is facing a number of felony charges. Investigators say she was involved in the planning of a 2028 attack on Houston's oldest Jewish congregation. Hicks' father believes that stems from the online presence that he wishes that he would have kept a better watch on her online activity.
Of course, we would have stopped it immediately, but just want the people of this county to know she's been here 18 years. She's lived with us every day. She has only left this property, a residence, to go with adults anywhere.
Hicks is being held on a $10 million bond. Investigators say they've identified the other alleged co-conspirators who live outside North Carolina. Residents are charged up over a proposed data center project in Union County, South Carolina. A group called the South Carolina Energy Justice Coalition hosted about 50 residents today at a religious center to give their thoughts about Project Alpaca. It calls for a 49 megawatt center at an industrial park in the town of Buffalo. Coalition leaders say they're neutral on the proposed facility. They just want to allow people to learn about the development and voice their opinions.
Any issue that is facing a community anywhere in our state that has an energy impact or potential energy impact, we try to respond to citizen concerns.
Most residents at the forum said they were against the center. Union County Council members will hold a public hearing on the proposal May 12th. President Trump is reducing the restrictions on a specific use for marijuana, the people who use it and the people who oppose it.
The tradition of this school and the spirit that this school holds and what we bring to the community is definitely the most special.
A school of legacy and tradition. The three lifelong friends and their teacher parents about the impact of Ashbrook High School. You're watching Queen City News, the most honored and the most local news in Charlotte. President Trump is reclassifying medical marijuana as a less dangerous drug. It eases restrictions on cannabis and allows for more research. Maddie Beartemple reports on the impact on states where medical marijuana is legal and the people who are opposed to the move.
Marijuana is still federally illegal for medical and recreational uses, but for the 40 states with licensed medical programs, it's now less strictly regulated.
A lot of people suffering from big problems, which this seems to be the best answer.
The DOJ says state-licensed medical marijuana and FDA-approved products containing marijuana are now classified as Schedule III drugs. That takes it out of the Schedule I category, reserved for drugs without medical use and with high potential for abuse. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche signed the order Thursday and said in a statement, quote, "This rescheduling action allows for research on the safety and efficacy of this substance, ultimately providing patients with better care and doctors with more reliable information."
I don't think weed should be classified as tough as heroin. I think that's just wrong.
Tennessee Republican Congressman Tim Burchett agrees with the move. Democrats earlier this week said they want to see the drug rescheduled federally. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says he thinks the votes could soon be there to do it.
And we're going to find a way to do so, hopefully in this Congress, and we certainly will be in a position to do something about it in the next Congress.
Smart Approaches to Marijuana President Kevin Sabet opposes rescheduling.
Today's marijuana is not Woodstock weed. It's so much stronger than it used to be. This isn't something we want to be promoting.
He also opposes the tax breaks that licensed medical marijuana operators would get because of the rescheduling. They can now deduct business expenses on federal taxes.
This is really about the business and industry more than anything else.
The DOJ is also taking steps to consider a broader restructuring of marijuana under federal law. The DEA has a hearing scheduled on that June 29th. In Washington, I'm Maddie Beartemple.
A former North Carolina police officer is accused of plotting a mass shooting at a Louisiana festival. Deputies arrested Christopher Gillum yesterday in Destin, Florida, reportedly finding him with a gun and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. Investigators say Gillum had expressed interest in harming black people. He spent 15 years as a Chapel Hill police officer and 8 months as an Orange County deputy. His arrest comes as New Orleans begins its annual jazz festival.
It's frightening, it's concerning, but regardless, we cannot not come.
Officials say there is no direct threats to the Jazz Fest or other New Orleans events. Gillum is being held in Florida until he is extradited to Louisiana. Honoring the past, celebrating the present, and inspiring the future. There is a lot of history at Gastonia's Ashbrook High School. This year, there are 3 teachers who graduated from Ashbrook who each have children in the school's current senior class. Queen City News anchor Caroline Boyer introduces us to them.
The school itself has changed in the past 5 decades, but the heart of Ashbrook High is the same.
We have a motto that's once a green wave, always a green wave, and that's like so true.
From the annual senior walk where students sport their painted overalls, to jamming out with a drumline at the yearly whiteout football game. There's one thing that stands out to both current and former students about Gastonia's largest high school.
The tradition of this school and the spirit that this school holds and what we bring to the community is definitely the most special.
Definitely the traditions, the people that keep those traditions.
Jeff Gazaskis is one of those people.
Why am I dividing by 4?
The math teacher of 24 years is also an alum, class of 1998.
When I graduated, my mom suggested maybe teach until you figure out what you wanted to do. And 24 years later, I think I figured out what I wanted to do.
He's now teaching in the same room where he had algebra class and down the hall from where his daughter Tupelo learns.
And I've basically been a green wave since I could walk.
The senior has a couple months before she'll walk across the graduation stage with 2 of her best friends, Liam Buckner and Andrew Rimmer.
I've known them since I was probably about 5 years old, and I'm never gonna leave them. Like, we're always attached to the hips.
It's different whenever you grow up together and you all share this one big thing that makes it more of a family feeling than just friends.
The Pit and the Pendulum is a story where we have 2 very suspenseful things.
Liam's dad, Jonathan Buckner, is currently an English teacher and has been at the school for about 15 years.
When I graduated in 1990, I swore I would never come back to this place. You know, I was like, there's no way.
But his positive experience as a student ended up bringing him back. It's the same thing that inspired alumna Ashley Rimmer to return as an English teacher, too.
Okay, so which one of these three is most negative? Like you're the most scared you've ever been in your life? Petrified. This was a place that was safe no matter what. And I was like, I could be that for the kids that go here.
At the end of May, she'll watch her son Andrew and his closest friends receive their diplomas.
It'll definitely mean something, like walking across the same stage that almost my whole family has.
It's the end of a special chapter for the 3 seniors.
I'm just gonna miss being here.
It's kind of like a second home to me.
There's nowhere else I'd rather be, to be honest, in Ashbrook.
But their parents are proof you can go home again.
People throw the word around, like legacy around, but like it literally is a legacy.
We build strength through our community, through this high school. It's just a really special place.
In Gastonia,
We will always be a Green Wave for life.
Caroline Boyer,
We'll be back, and helping in whatever role we can, after our time here is done.
Queen City News.
And we continue to follow the NFL draft right now as the Panthers went for offensive tackle Monroe Freeling out of Georgia in the first round just a few minutes ago. I want to give right out to Andrew Martin live in Pittsburgh tonight for us, host city for the NFL draft weekend. Andrew, you got about 300,000 fans there. They're all gathered for the draft. What was the reaction tonight to the Panthers pick?
Yeah, 300,000 fans, and the first reaction that we heard, Brian, was when the commissioner walked up on stage to officially open the draft, and they booed the commissioner, which he's not the most popular person around some parts of this country, especially around some cities that feel like he's not doing enough for, the leagues and the franchises. But with that particular pick, I think there was some confusion, not necessarily because Freeling is a bad player. You look at the measurables, you look at the size, and, he's somebody that could end up being the best pass protector in this draft. He might have gone, I actually saw a mock draft, Brian, that he was going to go as high as number 6 overall to the Browns, but he ended up falling to the Panthers in their lap in a position where you and I had talked earlier this evening where we thought that Kenyon Sadiq might end up falling to the Panthers. Well, guess what? The New York Jets decided, hey, we want that tight end. He's pretty good. So that's what happens when you pick before another team and you can make that selection. So I actually like the pick of Freeling. You definitely want to shore up a line, and why not get somebody who could turn out to be possibly the best prospect at his position in this class. And we also know when it comes to Georgia players that they translate really well to the next level. Go back a couple of years, and I think it was 2022 when Georgia had 15 players go in one day, or I should say 1 year of an NFL draft. So the Georgia Bulldogs really put players at the next level, and I think this was a position of need for the Panthers.
Yeah, you got to protect Bryce's blind side in this one for sure with the big guy coming in from Georgia. So that was the smaller surprises that you're talking about with the Panthers taking Freeling. Some of the bigger surprises that you saw tonight, did any prospects fall or did any team really reach for a guy?
Yeah, so Brian, I'll give you 2. I think Carnell Tate was a little bit of a reach at number 4, wide receiver out of Ohio State, who is incredibly talented and deserving of going obviously high in the draft. 4 might have been a little bit of a reach, but if the Tennessee Titans saw him as the guy they wanted, also we had heard rumors that they really wanted Jeremiah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame, who went a pick right before that, so they did what they thought they had to do and picked the best player available for them and their draft needs. But honestly, I think the really big surprise, Ty Simpson, quarterback out of Alabama, going 13th to the Rams when a lot of people thought he wasn't going to be a first-round guy, and the Rams already have a quarterback who's got a Super Bowl ring in Matthew Stafford. So this could be a Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love situation from Green Bay a few years ago. Brian?
Yeah, absolutely. And, the Panthers, we just think about all those Matt Stafford touchdowns that he threw and marched right down the field in the playoffs. And, certainly a surprise with that pick there for the Rams. All right. Good stuff, Andrew, as always. Appreciate you. Thank you. Well, much of the southeastern U.S. is experiencing a drought, and weeks without rain are leaving the Carolinas and Virginia dry and parched. Daniel Dukin shows us the impact on farms and the growing concerns of growers.
You can see some of them, you can see a little bit of brown. That's not good.
Examining the wheat on his farm in Caroline, Linwood Broadus says he's already starting to see signs of damage as the drought in Virginia stretches on.
Usually it's not dry this early, and actually it's been dry since November.
The freezing temperatures Tuesday morning only making matters worse.
We suspect our wheat is going to be heavily damaged. We probably won't be selling wheat this year.
With rainfall deficits nearly 3 inches and growing without rain, 91% of the state is experiencing a severe drought. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration predicts conditions will persist, creating a growing concern for local farmers.
A lot of farmers have stopped planting. When the ground gets dry, it gets hard. And you physically cannot get the machine into the ground deep enough.
Over in Louisa,
this should be your best month that you have all year.
Former Virginia Farmer of the Year Steve Hopkins says the growth on his hay fields is at just 25% of where it should be.
Normally, it should be at this point, should be up to my waist. And so thick that I would have a hard time walking back through it.
Hopkins relies on the hay and pastures to feed about 300 cows, but says the livestock is eating the grass as fast as it's growing.
This time of year, this grass would probably last this herd about 10 days, where this year about 2 days and it was gone.
He plans to rent more land to feed the cows, a decision that comes at a cost. Both he and Broadus say they don't use irrigation systems on their farms, so they're holding out hope that some much-needed rainfall will eventually roll through.
We have survived all kinds of dry weather, wet weather, and we've been able to continue on. So I have faith in sooner or later it's going to rain, sooner or later the corn will come up and things will continue.
One person is dead and 5 others injured after a shooting between 2 groups at a Louisiana mall. It happened earlier this afternoon in Baton Rouge. Police say 2 groups in the mall's food court got into an argument that escalated into gunfire. Baton Rouge police say they've arrested 5 people in connection with the shooting. They do not believe the incident was random.
I think people at the end of the day have the right to be concerned, about it. And sometimes the devil lives everywhere. And this is one of those situations, no matter how much law enforcement you got or social programs or whatever, if someone gets in their mind that they're going to do something like this, they're going to do it.
Police say they are still looking for other people who may have been involved in the shooting.
And getting back to the drought conditions in our area, as expected, latest update here on the drought monitor from earlier today shows an expansion of all that red on the map up through the mountains and down through the foothills, indicating extreme drought. We do have some rain on the way for the weekend, but how much? That's next.
A Charlotte video store is mixing in laughs and scares every week. A look into Ghouls Night Out in tonight's Faces of the Carolinas. You're watching Queen City News, the most honored and the most local news in Charlotte. A night at the movies can be predictable, but every month, Vizart Video in Charlotte adds a plot twist in the form of puppets. The result can be both scary and hilarious. Queen City News storyteller John Lee gives us a look in tonight's Faces of the Carolinas.
Sometimes to unwind, it helps to rewind. That's the idea of a movie night with a quirky plot twist.
I would be so excited and love it.
Without further ado, we're going to get our puppets and puppeteers up here.
Welcome to Ghouls Night Out at nonprofit Vizart Video. Every month they screen a campy horror movie.
It looks bad and sounds bad.
Moviegoers see the screen and the smart aleck puppets. What makes it a real screen is the comical running commentary.
A lot of people compare the three of us to the Three Stooges. And when I hear that, it boils my blood.
Honestly, it's very, very close to Mystery Science Theater.
This night's flick is a VHS selection, Vampire Trailer Park. The performers are caught up in an arms race for laughs.
I think the biggest challenge is just holding my arm up and slouching in the seat for the entire length of the movie.
Was this some sort of vampire trailer park?
The puppeteers include Mira Phelps with Lawrence.
I think people like that it's like interactive.
Uncle Scrunkle is Nathan Matthews' left-hand man.
So this is the first time I've used this puppet.
And Grace Trotta gives life to Carnelia.
I think people love being involved. She's on vocal rest.
Don't worry about the story. Donations are always welcome.
Puppet maker Grayson Nada started Ghouls Night Out a couple of years ago.
When a lot of stuff is becoming more like digital and like AI art is like gaining in popularity, I think people really like the human-made elements.
The more different it is, the more eclectic it is, the more we love it.
Vampire Trailer Park was shot in Florida.
All the actors from this movie have died.
Because it was such a long time ago, the 90s.
Well, the good news, they aren't all dead.
Vampires.
The Morans live in Charlotte. Kathy plays a psychic, while Patrick was co-producer-writer.
It's a lot of fun.
And you don't believe that? They got to you.
The Morans say their idea was groundbreaking.
Bulimic vampire movie.
Bulimic vampire. Nobody had done it. No, I don't think anyone's done it since.
We might be the first. I don't want to lay claim to having the first bulimic vampire movie, but we're certainly one of the first.
Yet another hole in the plot of Vampire Trailer Park.
Many of the puppeteers have stand-up comedy backgrounds.
Coincidence?
Bounce ideas off of each other, and I know, it's social for me. I get to leave the house, which is great.
I'm kind of an awkward person. It's hard for me to connect with other people, but through the medium of Ghouls Night and through art, I've been able to connect with my neighbors.
Act excited.
Mr. Matthews is a music teacher.
And if we can all share a chuckle over somebody getting his throat slashed, I think that makes, our world a better place.
Message of hope.
It's really insightful.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Together, they raise their hands to raise morale at a place where everyone laughs with you, not at you.
Oh, it's over. Finally, thank God.
Good job, everybody.
In Charlotte, John Lee, Queen City News.
Ghouls Night Out is on the second Monday of every month at Vizart Video. Vampire Trailer Park is distributed by the VHS preservation group Lunch Meat. To the weather now as you're looking live over South Park on another dry night here across the Carolinas. Could that change? Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Tara Lane right now. And we need a whole lot really to catch up on the drought that we do. But hey, let's start somewhere.
Yes, it's not going to change tonight, so we're going to stay dry tonight. But by Saturday, I promise we will see some rain in the area. Now, you're not guaranteed to see a lot of raindrops, but
depending on where you are too.
Some scattered activity. It's not going to be the good widespread soaker, yes, that we do need. Just some scattered showers and potentially a few storms in the mix as well, with the weaker cold front moving in here from the west eventually. But drought conditions linger, and that goes too for the Nantahala Outdoor Center area there. And out toward the southwestern corner of the state. Dry weather out there tonight. We still have the rippling water there, the river down below. Looks refreshing, especially after the warmth that we felt today, too. Those highs up into the mid-80s. We get another kind of hot one out there tomorrow. And poor air quality coming up for tomorrow, too. For Mecklenburg County, Cabarrus County, you can see some areas off to the east along Highway 74 highlighted and down toward the upstate of South Carolina. It's a code orange air quality action day. We have that buildup happening of ground level ozone and this warm and stagnant air mass and some of that wildfire smoke. You saw the story there from all the fires burning over South Georgia. Some of that, because we have the wind coming out of the southwest, will be drifting our way. So if you see a little more of that hazy sky or you step outside, maybe smell some smokiness in the air, and especially down to South Carolina, that's what it is from. So code orange air quality action day, making it slightly unhealthy. This is mainly for sensitive groups, like if you have respiratory issues like asthma, emphysema, younger kids, older active adults. Just one of those days into tomorrow where you want to try and limit that time outside. Drought monitor, yes, you can see all the red just plastered across the map. The difference from last week is that more of the mountain communities and down through the foothills included in that extreme drought. How much rain would we need to completely just climb out of this drought here? Well, let's say over the next month, we would need about 11 to 13 inches over a good part of the Piedmont, up toward the mountains and foothills, but even some higher amounts down through upstate South Carolina, around Asheville and the southwestern corner of the state would be needed, 14 inches plus. Not going to see nearly that much as we head into the weekend. It's a dry scan out there tonight. They are tracking violent, destructive tornadoes over sections of especially northern Oklahoma here tonight along that dry line. You can see that brown line there around that area of low pressure. And we have that trailing front that's going to be moving in by Saturday. A weaker system by the time it gets here, but it will bring us some of that rain. We've got 73 pleasant feeling degrees outside right now. You can see surrounding Charlotte a little bit cooler in spots. We've got 59 and Salisbury 63 in Gastonia, mid-60s down in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and back in the mid and upper 50s up in the mountains. Tomorrow will be another pretty warm day. We're talking mid, a few spots in the upper 80s, more sunshine, not a whole lot of rain. We could get a spot shower or two up toward the mountains or across the northern tier of the state as the moisture gradually starts to increase. And you'll still get some dry time and a lot of us waking up to some sunshine early Saturday morning before we see, yes, more scattered showers and storms rolling in mainly after lunchtime, mid to late afternoon. Some of that could hang around, especially in the mountains, a little bit later in the evening as well before the front moves away. We'll have some leftover clouds around for Sunday, but overall Sunday is looking like the drier half of the weekend. But the rainfall forecast, and even though we're talking about more rain chances going into the early part of next week, about Tuesday and maybe midweek on Wednesday, still over the next 7 days, we're just not expecting a whole lot of rain, anywhere from 1/4 of an inch or so to the east of Charlotte there along Highway 74 to about 1/2 inch, maybe close to an inch, those higher totals up toward the mountains. So the 7-day forecast shows showers and storms for Saturday. Again, drier, a little bit cooler for Sunday. We're going to stick with those highs mainly in the mid and upper 70s through next week.
All right, good looking tomorrow. All right, Tara, thank you. Stay right there. You're watching Queen City News, the most honored and the most local news in Charlotte. The wackiest pet names are out for the year, and the well-deserved winner of the title went to an Arkansas cat by the name of Cheddar Big Booty Cheeseburger. More than 200,000 people voted to decide the top spot.
He's always just been like a little bit of a larger kitten, and just as he started like developing into more of an adult cat, I couldn't quite pick him up anymore. With like just one hand, it became two, so it was like holding a burger. So Cheddar Cheeseburger fit.
It sure does. His owner calls him Cheddar, or Big Booty for short. Stay right there. You're watching Queen City News, the most honored and the most local news in Charlotte. We'll be right back with a final check of your pinpoint forecast, followed by Carolina Sports Live. And I got a wrap on the first round of the NFL draft tonight, and especially on that Panthers pick at 19.
It's going to be another kind of hot day out there tomorrow to wrap up the week. 87 degrees, tiny chance of a shower in the mountains, but we get a much better chance of scattered showers and storms on Saturday. A little bit cooler Sunday.
All right, thanks, Tara. Stay right there. We got CSL and the wrap of the Panthers draft, and Big Al Wallace in the house tonight. Stay right there.
Now, it's CSL, Carolina Sports Live.
With the 19th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Monroe Freeling, tackle, Georgia.
There's a new Panther coming to town, and as you just heard, he's coming to protect Bryce Young. Now we got all you need to know on offensive lineman Monroe Freeling, Carolina's 2026 first-round pick. Well, there's something different. First time in 3 years, Carolina did not take a wide receiver. A change of pace tonight on Carolina Sports Live. He's Gabe McDonald. I'm Mike Lissette. Thanks for joining us.